Good morning. Start your day informed and ahead. Today is Wednesday, the 12th of August. I'm Angela Lanunsad Castro.
And I'm Cheska Lutancala. We are bringing you the perfect mix of the headlines you need and the conversations that shape your day.
From the news desk to the digital space, we have got you covered. I'm Pauline Berzosa, and welcome to Morning Matters.
First in the news, several acknowledgement receipts for the Office of the Vice President's confidential funds were presented at Vice President Sara Duterte's impeachment trial. Among the names appearing on the receipts were Pia Piatos Lim, Jose Jocno Jr., Denise Tanya Escudero, Hart Santiago, Hanilet Camille C., and Clarice Ontiveros. The documents listed amounts and stated purposes such as information supplies, medical and food aid, and rewards. The Senate continues to hear the impeachment article involving the alleged misuse of 612.5 million pesos in confidential funds of the OVP and Department of Education. All right. So, day 14 yesterday, it is still a presentation of the Article 1 of the impeachment, which is the alleged misuse of confidential funds. So, aside from the characters,
New characters
unlocked. Okay, which is your favorite?
Lumabas na siya.
Miggy,
We've
Mango.
been waiting.
Miggy, Mango. And of course, yung mga kaparehas na apelido ng mga senators. There are also important issues that were raised during the trial. One of which is, of course, the notice of disallowances, which is, if I'm not mistaken, for the last 3 months of 2022, 73 million. And for the last 3 months of 2023, the notice of disallowance was 375 million. And for context, the reason why they issued nga daw itong notice of disallowance na 73 million because of the House Justice Committee hearing at the time when the SDO, si Gina Acosta, said, disclosed that binigay nila or she handed over the confidential funds to the head of the security of the Vice President upon the instruction of the Vice President, which is sinasabi nga ni COA auditor yesterday na si Sailin Del Campo. It is a violation of the Joint Circular, particularly the 6.1.1, that you're not allowed, diba, to transfer the fund to another. So yun yung mga isa sa mga mabibigat, sabi nga nila, na ni-raise yesterday.
But even before the continuance of the direct examination, the manifestations of Attorney Lorna Capunan at the beginning of the hearing yesterday, my goodness, hindi pa nare-resolve yung ARs.
Exactly, oo.
Yes.
So,
medyo dyan nag-umpisa eh.
And yun na nga yung sinabi ni Attorney Lorna na parang the presiding officer said to meet last Thursday or Friday. We attempted to communicate with the defense. And parang sinabi nga in India na parang kinorek na siya ni Presiding Officer Cheese na nag-ghost kayo.
Nag-ghost ka ata.
Oo.
Hindi, in-ignore.
Oo, in-ignore. Pero bago na nga daw, ghosting na.
Iba na yung term kasi nung
Kailangan
generational
Gen Z
gap.
tayo eh.
We're not supposed to say that na rin eh. Pero you have to wonder, because the prosecution has already made concessions also. Now, we'll use the documents from the defense. So you have to wonder also, like, what is happening on the side of the defense regarding these ARs? Is it part of their strategy? Is it like what is the purpose of continuing to object or delay to stipulating to these documents?
She also questioned why the defense is why they're using as an excuse the fact that they're a lean team. But when you take a look at the defense team, there are around 15 lawyers. So kahit ni isa doon, walang makapag-meet ba with the prosecution, right, to sift through all these acknowledgement receipts. But the good thing is that Sailin Del Campo was still able to take the witness stand yesterday. She just based her testimony on the summary or the tabulation of the ARs. But what stood out for me yesterday were the activities that Sailin Del Campo cited on where the confidential funds were used by the OVP and the DepEd, right? There was tree planting, Christmas parties, gift giving, and she was very clear, you cannot use confidential funds, intelligence funds for these types of activities kasi the joint circular is very clear. It should only be used for information gathering, for confidential transport, safe houses, equipment. So irregularity talaga yun, diba? I think that's a glaring irregularity that the defense might have a hard time defending. Although they did say, hindi naman ginamit yung funds doon. Ginamit siya for
ang sinabi niya, security. Kumbaga, dun sa mga taong involved na walang nangyaring masama, it was really not the event itself, but the people involved. But of course, you wanna say, what constitutes a legitimate and confidential program? Which, alam naman natin na parang hindi naman yata ito yun. Sabi nga nila, para alam natin, to be fair, you can go back and read Joint Circular 2015 and check kung ano talaga doon, yung mga legitimate confidential operations.
Yung sinabi nga ni Ms. Del Campo regarding those activities, yung binigay daw na certifications, it just said na parang, quote, there were no untoward incidents. Pero yung explanation nila doon na parang yung sa probable threat na yon, may nahuli ba? So kung may nahuli, yun yung magwa-warrant ng payment of rewards for information or anything that led to yung paghuli dun sa threat na yun.
And that's what was really lacking from the side of the respondent. Accomplishment report proof that they used it for intelligence activities. But another thing we have to note is the motion of Senator Mig Zubiri to move the impeachment trial schedule again. So it will,
ano ba talaga?
he's proposing to have it in the afternoon, ulit, no? 3 p.m. onwards.
But we'll see, they will have a caucus to talk about it, and we'll see if they're gonna meet an agreement to put it back in the afternoon. But of course, isa pa sa, before we move forward dun sa news mo, Pawi, no? Isa pa sa mga na-caught ng attention ko is during the interpellation of Attorney Lorna Capunan, yung tungkol sa Superman. Diba? Because they were trying to prove there that how did DepEd is able to spend millions of pesos in different areas in just one day. Diba? So parang nakita ko doon na parang pinapakita nila na kumbaga, nung February 2021, 2023, 7 ARs, Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao. Tapos Feb 25, yung mga ganun, sobrang daming ARs. Hindi ko na maisa-isa because we don't have much time. Pero yun yung sinasabi niya, ano to, Superman? Diba?
Naikot mo yung buong Pilipinas in one
kaya
day.
sabi nung defense, speculative yan. Sabi, it's not speculative. Superman can really fly. Mga ganun pa.
Nako, marami pa rin tayong abangan. Today, there will be the cross-examination already of the defense with the witness, State Auditor Silene Del Campo. But in other news, a grave threats complaint has been filed against Vice President Sara Duterte before the Quezon City Regional Trial Court, according to the Department of Justice. The case stems from threats Duterte allegedly made against President Bongbong Marcos, First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos, and former House Speaker Martin Romualdez during a December 2024 press conference. Duterte's lawyer, Lawrence Lim, said the Vice President would exhaust all legal remedies to contest the charges. He added that she remains presumed innocent and is confident that the charges will eventually be dismissed. Lim also argued that as a sitting impeachable officer, Duterte cannot be prosecuted for an alleged offense that is also the subject of an impeachment case.
Ayun na nga.
I'm curious na ano yung naging basehan ni Attorney Lim for saying that. Kasi based on jurisprudence, the only official who is immune from prosecution is the president, diba? And when it comes to an impeachment naman, the DOJ also said that it's separate, ano? An impeachable officer can also face criminal charge, complaint, kasi ang criminal case is determining liability, criminal liability, while an impeachment is for accountability.
Yes. Oo. So yun yung pinag-uusapan din namin ni Sir Ed kanina. But parang what's the point of filing the case when there is kumbaga ongoing impeachment trial? But of course the law would say that the impeachment case is its aim is to impeach an official, 'di ba? Para kumbaga may perpetual disqualification kung ma-impeach siya. Ibig sabihin, hindi na siya takbo sa public office. But by doing this, by filing this case, it's actually a criminal din.
Yes.
Kumbaga, criminal offense ito na po pwedeng makulong
Yes.
if ever, 'di ba? Kung mapatunayan nila. So kasi 'di ba sinasabi natin during the trial nung presentation ng grave threat, hindi na daw kailangan i-prove ng prosecution na may hinire na assassin, na ganito, because hindi naman ito criminal case. This is an impeachment case. So ito, DOJ, meron ng criminal case.
Ito na yung proper
Ito na yung criminal.
form.
Oo,
Yes.
yun ang sinasabi nila.
So this is in accordance with Article 2. They based it on the Cybercrime Prevention Act. No? So Article 282 of the Revised Penal Code for grave threats in relation to Section 6 of RA 0175. And then yung inciting to sedition and grave threats complaint, final ng NBI. This was back in February 2025 pa. So, well, eto na.
Oo, yeah.
Umusad na siya.
Yeah.
Yun lang, na-dismiss yung inciting to sedition and natuloy yung sa grave threats. And we've heard from DOJ spokesperson, Attorney Polo Martinez, na yung prima facie evidence, yun na, as nakita na natin yung video, may certainty of conviction daw to indict the VP for the crime of grave threats against through cyberspace.
Parang,
Many might also question yung timing of this complaint that the Vice President is facing in terms of in relation to the grave threats. Pero yun nga, the fact that the DOJ dismissed the inciting to sedition charges, parang mahirap naman daw i-argue ng kampo nila Vice President Sara Duterte na she's being politically attacked, persecuted, kasi hindi naman lahat pumasa sa DOJ, right? The only thing that they will be charging her is ito ngang grave threats.
parang ang pinupunto naman, of course, for the sake of a balanced argument here, ang pinupunto ng defense is the DOJ is actually parang trying to bypass the constitutional boundaries. Ang sinasabi nila, the state must wait for the Senate political trial to conclude before trying an exact criminal liability. Yun yung pinopoint nila.
So, hindi pwedeng sabay yung criminal case versus
yung
sa
sinasabi
impeachment.
nila.
Based on...
Yung sinasabi nila ng defense. Of course,
Oo.
alam mo naman ng
Or
mga
ano yung-
lawyers, they will have, I mean, both sides,
Yeah.
'di ba? Yan naman talaga trabaho nila to find the legalities para makalusot or whatever, 'di ba, yung sa isang
But
situation.
is it in the Constitution?
Yun ang sinasabi.
Oo.
Basta ang sinasabi nila, DOJ, ang kanilang allegation, DOJ is trying to bypass the constitutional boundaries by doing this because, according to them, they have to try the impeachment trial. Kumbaga, they have to finish impeachment trial first before they try the criminal liability.
Okay, I'm sure we'll be talking more about this in the coming days. Meanwhile, a heated exchange erupted at the Senate between Senators Raffy Tulfo and Pia Cayetano. Tulfo accused Minority Leader Alan Peter Cayetano of holding hostage key bills for allegedly failing to act on the minority's membership in committees chaired by Tulfo. He said the delay is holding up measures, including the proposed Department of Water, franchise bills, and the OFW reintegration bill. With Alan Cayetano absent, his sister, Senator Pia Cayetano, fired back, telling Tulfo to stop the hostage drama and simply ask her to relay his concerns. Tulfo responded that he was not grandstanding and told Cayetano to look in the mirror before accusing him of drama. Senate President Win Gatchalian later said the issue is expected to be resolved through coordination between the Senate leadership and the majority.
Senator Tulfo, madali niyo naman akong tanungin, alam niyo naman kapatid ko si Alan, kung gusto niyo may parating. Huwag na ho kayo magdrama ng mga pa-hostage. Hindi ho tayo ganito dito.
Ubusin ko muna yung tawa ko. Never po ako nagdrama dito. Simula nung ako'y maging senador, never ever po ako nagdrama rito. Halugugin niyo po yung mga post sa social media. Never niyo ako nakita nagdrama. O ginamit to para mag-grandstanding.
Ubusin ko muna tawa
Tawa mo.
But we heard from Senate President Sherwin Gatchalian that there are still 32 Senate committees that have to be fully convened. Kasi nasa Senate rules yan eh. Yung the committee memberships need to be complete before they can carry out their respective tasks. So kailangan nga matapos na to. So on Senator Raffy Tulfo's side, he said that his staff has repeatedly reached out to Senator Alan Peter Cayetano's office, but to no avail. And then we heard from Senator Mig Zubiri who said na Senator Alan Peter Cayetano hasn't been feeling well lately.
May sakit naman.
Pero-
just when you thought, kasi sabi mo, but just when we thought na the senators have been cooled down, cooled down na, pero hindi pa pala talaga sila. Meron pa ring tension. No, yun nga yung sinasabi natin. Go ahead, Pawi.
No, kasi, di ba, you can reach him through siguro online messaging apps, di ba? Hindi naman mahirap na tumawag na nga daw yung mga staff pero walang sumasagot. So at some point, mapapatanong ka if all efforts have been exhausted already to contact you and yet wala pa rin. We understand now the grievance of Senator Raffy Tulfo on why he had to do this publicly. So some of the committees that have yet to be constituted or convened, public services, that's also chaired by Senator Tulfo, and it affects franchise bills, migrant workers. This also affects, of course, our OFWs. And just for context, each Senate committee kasi needs to be composed of majority and minority senators. So until now, hindi pa na-elect, hindi pa nagpapasa yung minority kung sino ba yung magiging miyembro ng mga yan.
Ayan ang problema nila. Pero yung isa din sa nakikita din natin dito na may mga ilan pa rin mga senators na absent din doon sa mismong Senate Impeachment Court. And sinasabi naman ng Impeachment Court dito, it won't be an issue unless hindi sila makakuha ng quorum. That's when they have to talk about tardiness or absences. And we all know naman, sabi naman nila, kapag dating kay Senator Lauren Legarda, she filed medical leave until today. So we are supposed to see her tomorrow, hopefully. Pero yun lang kasi sa Congress, you need travel authority to leave the country. Di ba lagi natin nababalita yan? Pero yung kay Senator Lauren Legarda, parang wala, Parang she didn't file or she didn't have to file travel authority. So that we need to understand pa.
All right, don't go away. Morning Matters will be back after a short break.
Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. More than 2.8 million people have been affected by the enhanced southwest monsoon and tropical cyclones Luis and Maymay, according to the NDRRMC. At least 21 people have died, 14 were injured, and 1 remains missing due to the weather disturbances. The NDRRMC said 807,737 families across 10 regions have been affected. The government has so far provided more than 206.79 million pesos in relief assistance. And for the latest on the impact of the Habagat and recent tropical cyclones, we're now joined by Office of Civil Defense spokesperson Junie Castillo. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Pauline. Good morning to the viewers of Morning Matters.
All right, sir, can we get the latest numbers? How many casualties, injured, and missing people have been tallied already in the aftermath of the Habagat?
As of the 6 a.m. report, consolidated report of the NDRRMC and the Office of Civil Defense, we have 21, still the 21 fatalities. These are coming from Calabarzon, 6, that accounts for 6, and then for the Cordillera Administrative Region, that's 20, rather 15. So that's the total of 21. And then for the injured, there are 14 injured kababayans and 1 missing. So that remains to be the number.
And sir, how many families so far have been displaced and affected already by this habagat?
With regards to the affected and then displaced population, as of 6 a.m., there are 909,000 families that have been affected. This accounts to 3.1 million. These are coming from 3,400 barangays across different regions mostly in Luzon.
Sir Junie, which areas have suffered the worst flooding and damage? I know that parts of northern Luzon were the hardest hit, but which exact areas are we talking about?
In terms of flooded areas, the region that accounted for the most number of flooded areas are this is in Region 3, so for Central Luzon. As of yesterday, there were reported 535 flooded areas in Region 3, and these are coming from, let me just check the province, mostly in Bulacan and then also in Pampanga.
Sir, are there areas that are still considered vulnerable?
Right now, no, we're still looking at these areas in Region 3 that are being monitored, vulnerable because of some of these areas are still flooded. And then when it comes to the list of the barangays that are flooded prone and landslide prone areas, the list of these barangays are released by the DNR Mines and Geosciences Bureau. So that's why we were encouraging all the LGUs and the barangays and even our kababayans to look at that list if they belong to that list. So when it comes to habagat, still it's the Luzon that we're looking at.
And sir, with the habagat still bringing rains, how would you assess our disaster response?
As directed by the President, all the response clusters, both from the local government units and then from the national government units, are on standby and then ongoing with the response operations. In terms of the standby funds, we don't see it lacking yet, so we still have enough food and non-food items that have been prepositioned and on standby, and even with the deployed assets for rescue, for the response operations, we still have enough standby equipment and manpower to do that.
All right, well, thank you very much for those updates. I was Office of Civil Defense spokesperson Junie Castillo.
Thank you.
Now, in other news, a tropical depression outside the country is still being monitored east of extreme northern Luzon. It was last spotted some 1,990 kilometers east of extreme northern Luzon with maximum sustained winds of 55 kilometers per hour and gusts of up to 70 kph. Meanwhile, the southwest monsoon or habagat continues to affect Luzon, bringing scattered rains and thunderstorms. Pag-asa warns of possible flash floods and landslides due to moderate to at times heavy rains. Day 14 of Vice President Sara Duterte's impeachment trial put the spotlight on how confidential funds were spent, with a COA auditor flagging questionable activities, receipts, and the handling of cash advances. Mobile journalist Fatima Baduria gives us a recap in this report.
The 14th day of the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte saw Sailin May del Campo, Commission on Audit Intelligence and Confidential Funds Audit Office or COA-ICFAO auditor, on the witness stand, resuming the prosecution's presentation of pieces of evidence on Article 1 or alleged misuse of confidential funds. During the direct examination led by counsel for the prosecution Lorna Kapunan, Del Campo identified documents submitted by the Office of the Vice President to COA in relation to its confidential funds. This includes the OVP's list of activities in December 22 that comprised Christmas activities, meetings, tree planting, and medical missions that use the said funds. According to Del Campo, these activities cannot be taken as confidential operations according to the COA's joint circular, where confidential funds are supposed to be allocated for information gathering. Moreover, Del Campo says the OVP failed to provide proof of success that such operations occurred during the activities listed.
Ang hinahanap ko po kasi dito, sample po doon sa isang activity is nakalagay probable threat, CTG, parang ganun, NPA po. Ang hinahanap po kasi is payment of rewards. Meron bang doon sa probable threat na yun, may nahuli ba? Parang ganun po. Yun ang magwa-warrant ng payment of rewards po.
At wala kang ganon
Yun po ang
na
hindi
nakita
hindi
sa
po
evaluation mo, Madam Witness.
Opo.
The witness also identified some acknowledgement receipts submitted by the OVP and DepEd, containing unusual names like Pia Piato Slim, Ralph Josh Bacon, Jay Camote, and even those with the same surnames as senator judges, including Clarice Ontiveros and Diane Maple Lapid. Moreover, multiple ARs from DepEd shows that cash were received from Davao, Negros Occidental, Makati, and Agusan del Sur on the same date, while Del Campo says that only DepEd Special Disbursing Officer Edward Fajarda is the only one authorized to carry out the distribution of the funds. Del Campo also recalled the SDOs of both the OVP and DepEd testifying that they transferred the cash advance to members of the Vice Presidential Security and Protection Group, leading her to issue a notice of disallowance.
Instead of a notice of suspension, diniretso nyo agad sa notice of disallowance.
Opo, tama po.
Anong pinagbasihan ninyo nito?
Dahil nga po, ang definition po ng notice of disallowance based on the joint circular is yung transaction po appears to be illegal, improper, or irregular. And in this case po, yung naging transfer po is a direct violation, making the transaction irregular. Kaya naging notice of disallowance na po yung inisyo namin.
The defense's cross-examination of Del Campo is set for the 15th impeachment trial day of the Vice President, before proceeding to a possible redirect and re-cross-examination from both parties. The prosecution has also mentioned their plan of calling Fajarda, OVP Special Disbursing Officer Gina Acosta, and House Legislative Archives Director Marivic Pareja to the witness stand. Kapatid Fatima Baduria, we are One News.
Now, the defense of Vice President Sara Duterte is expected to cross-examine COA State Auditor Sailin Del Campo as the impeachment trial enters day 15. And for more details, let's bring in mobile journalist Merimon Reyes. Merimon, what can we expect from today's proceedings?
Pauline, COA State Auditor Sailin Del Campo is expected to still be seated at the witness stand for this day, but not for the direct examination of the prosecution, but for the cross-exam on the part of the defense. And should time permit, there would also be a recross or redirect examination from either of the parties, followed by interjectory or clarification questions or clarificatory questions from senator judges. Meanwhile, we're also anticipating changes in the schedule of the witnesses to be called by the prosecution, since supposedly for this week, we also have in line, or the prosecution also has in line, Marivic Pareja, record custodian of the House of Representatives, the special disbursing officers of both the OVP and the DepEd, Gina Acosta and Edward Fajarda. And what usually happens on the last day of each trial week, the prosecution will be presenting to the impeachment court their list of witnesses who will be called for the coming week. So that we are anticipating changes, especially on the subpoenas calling for these two SDOs. And that is the latest so far from the Senate Impeachment Court. Back to you, Pauline.
All right, thank you very much for that report. That was mobile journalist Merimon Reyes. Don't go away, because Money Talks with Kathy Yang is up next to get you ahead of the markets. I'm Pauline Berzosa. Stay tuned to One News.
Welcome to Money Talks. I'm Kathy Yang, your intel on the Philippine markets and the economy. In the headlines, social services and infrastructure top bill the Marcos administration's 2027 spending plans. The Energy Regulatory Commission is proposing to remove the value-added tax and system loss charges, which could save consumers around 6 billion pesos annually. And breaking into higher value AI, data, and engineering work, a conversation on the future of jobs amid AI and tougher global competition with IBPAP President and CEO Jack Madrid. Before we head to our top stories, more than 2.8 million people have been affected by the enhanced southwest monsoon and tropical cyclones Luis and Maymay. The NDRRMC reports at least 21 people have died, 14 were injured, and 1 remains missing due to the weather disturbances. Over 800,000 families across 10 regions have been affected. The government has so far provided more than 206 million pesos in relief assistance. Meanwhile, Pagasa says La Mesa Dam's water level had dropped to 79.87 meters as of 6 a.m., below its 80.15 meter overflow elevation. On Tuesday, President Bongbong Marcos said flooding in some areas were not as severe as before, but acknowledged that more work is needed. During an inspection in Las Piñas City, he cited the resumption of dredging operations after a 12-year moratorium. The halt, he said, has made rivers and spillways more shallow.
Hindi ganun kalala ang pagbaba, medyo nabawasan. Dati hanggang dibdib umaabot. Ngayon wala pa, hindi na hanggang kulang pa sa tuhod ang baha. At so effective naman ang ating ginagawa. Ngunit alam naman natin kulang pa rin yan. Marami pa rin tayong kailangan gawin.
Meantime, Kalumpit, Bulacan has declared a state of calamity after the Pampanga River overflowed. Floodwaters have reached up to 6 feet, with all 29 barangays still affected and high tide aggravating the flooding. Recall that the province has more than 600 flood control projects, several of which have been flagged as faulty or non-existent. The Department of Budget and Management has formally turned over the proposed 7.2 trillion peso 2027 budget to the House of Representatives. The government has proposed 976 billion pesos for basic education, 644 billion for infrastructure, and 354 billion for health. Top funding recipients also include defense, transportation, agriculture, social welfare, higher education, and the judiciary. The government has also set aside 107.4 billion pesos for flood control projects after removing the item in this year's budget due to the corruption scandal. 19.6 billion pesos will be allocated for the ongoing foreign-assisted projects and another 3.4 billion for the maintenance of MMDA's flood mitigating structures.
Hindi naman din po natin po pwedeng pabayaan yung mga naumpisahan na ng mga flood control projects at mas hindi po magiging maayos yung epekto kung mananatiling nakatiwangwang yung mga naumpisahan ng mga flood control projects.
The proposed 2027 budget is 6% higher than the previous year. The government plans to borrow 1.7 trillion to finance the revenue shortfall. In an interview with One News Historicon, public finance specialist Isa Susara says the proposed budget has its focus more on short-term concerns.
Yung 2027 budget ay very reactive. Very reactive siya in terms of wanting to address the short-term concerns of the public because of the economic shocks. Is that a bad thing? Of course not. It's necessary, but it's also populist.
Meantime, the Budget Department projects the country's outstanding debt to surpass 21 trillion pesos next year. The debt is being padded by a weakening peso and a slowdown in fiscal consolidation program. The Energy Regulatory Commission is moving to remove the 12% VAT on system loss charges and electricity bills. Under a draft resolution, the ERC wants system loss excluded from the taxable receipts of power generators and the National Grid Corporation of the Philippines. The Commission estimates consumers could save about 6 billion pesos a year in total. That means an average Metro Manila household using 200 kilowatt hours could potentially save around 21 pesos a month. The proposal, however, still needs the acceptance of the Bureau of Internal Revenue and its implementing rules. The Philippines has obtained up to $600 million in U.S. grant assistance to expand access to quality health care and strengthen resilience against public health threats. The Finance Department says the grant, worth nearly 37 billion pesos, will support the DOH's Integrated and Sustainable Health Systems program. It will target HIV, tuberculosis, neglected tropical diseases, and maternal, newborn, and child health, while strengthening outbreak response, health service delivery, and domestic health financing. The funding follows a 5-year U.S.-Philippines health agreement signed July 22nd, under which the Philippines also committed about $492 million, while the U.S. plans to provide $193 million. The DOF clarified that this co-investment is separate from the $600 million grant. One of the Philippines' biggest services engines tempers its long-term growth expectations, while the hardware side is turning more bullish on AI-led demand, raising the question of whether the Philippines can convert this electronics boom into a better-paid, higher-value digital jobs rather than just more assembly work. Well, with us now for more is IBPAP President and CEO Jack Madrid. IBPAP is the Information Technology and Business Process Association of the Philippines, the main industry association and advocacy group for the country's IT BPM sector. That was a mouthful, but welcome back, Jack.
Always good to be here.
Yeah, let's pick up from the downgrade, because that really tells us what the true state is of the tech and IT BPM industry. Are we still doing a lot more BPO work, or are we seeing a move up the value chain in terms of jobs that support AI, data, and engineering work?
You know, over the past decades, our industry has continuously increased the value and the complexity of the work that our digital workers deliver to our global customers. And you've seen this over the past 15, 16 years of continuous growth. So 2025, as you know, we grew 5%, leading the global growth of the industry. And in 2026, I'm happy to say that we're going to grow about 6% in revenue for the industry, with a net positive increase in jobs. So we should hit 1.94, 1.95 million digital workers by the end of 2026.
Yeah,
so,
but what kind of jobs, Jack? Because the downgrade in the forecast quite concerning. If we can just pull it up, you recently lowered revenue and jobs projections for both 2027 and 2028 because of AI and a tougher global competition. So that tells us two things. There are some jobs that are keeping us up there with that continuous growth through the years, but there is also that change that we have to make to keep up with the competition.
well, you know, the urgency of upskilling our digital workers has always been there, even before the advent of AI. So it's always been a challenge because our industry is very human capital intensive. But if you look behind the numbers, right, the growth of revenue surpassed the percentage growth in jobs. And that means that the value that each job, on average, delivers is actually growing every year. And that says something about, you know, the higher value added, the higher complexity of the jobs that we do. But we're not going to rest on our laurels. I think this is a trend we want to continue because, as you said, there is more competition in the industry. It's no longer just India and the Philippines. We now have a third level of other destinations.
Such
where,
as?
countries like Egypt, South Africa, Poland, and Latin America. Countries like Colombia have emerged.
So, Nat, are we creating newer jobs faster than they're being replaced?
Well, I think we are a world leader in IT BPM, along with India, and I think we just need to protect our existing market share and hopefully grow it towards the higher value spectrum of jobs. And one of the positive trends in the past several years has been the growth of global capability centers, or GCCs. So it's another segment of IT BPM that refers to the 100% owned multinationals who have transferred their operations from head office to the Philippines.
How has that grown? Because I know our initial conversation mentioned the GCCs even well before the war, even
Yes.
before the flood control scandal, the slowing economy. Have a lot more relocated here for the GCCs?
I think the growth in GCCs continues. We are number 2 in the world. Obviously, India is leading because of their ability to scale, being a much bigger workforce. But the Philippines is a solid number 2 and is the natural, I think, alternative to these multinationals because of our strength in IT BPM.
You got a couple of names there?
Well, I think that I'll start with the sectors. I think banking, financial services, insurance, and all aspects of healthcare are where the Philippines can really compete because of our strong renown, because of our nurses and our healthcare professionals. So I think we're positioned very well in healthcare.
The parallel front, we're seeing some growth in electronics and semiconductors. Just pulling up the graph, we're seeing record high expectations for the exports of chips that we make and then re-export. Yes. We're seeing it move beyond $50 billion, and it's a record high. It's something that we hadn't been there before, and we're seeing that as a parallel move alongside the pulling back in the revenue projections for the IT BPM industry. How then do you reconcile an export chip boom and services pulling back?
Well, I wouldn't term it as a pullback. I think the more tempered forecasts are a result also of macroeconomic factors. Locators have not stopped, but maybe they're taking longer to decide on offshoring services to India and the Philippines. So I think that's partly the reason. Has nothing to do with the competitiveness of the Philippines or any other constraints, because we're very well positioned. I think global customers still want a Filipino digital worker or agent to solve their issues. But on the electronics front, while there is maybe no direct connection, I think we can take advantage of the stronger electronics growth rate and maybe convince those multinationals to consider some services, whether it's in analytics or logistics or cybersecurity or finance, to be delivered in the Philippines on top of the assembly and design of chips.
Just as a final point, and as you mentioned scale, there's been a lot of talk about Pac Silica. What is the position of the IT BPM industry on it?
We don't have an official position on Pac Silica. Obviously, we need more information as to what it really entails, whether it's data centers or stronger infrastructure. I think we need a lot more detail before we can, make any statements about it. But certainly, if it's good for the Philippines, taking advantage of our position in Southeast Asia, I think it will be good for all our industries.
What's the one non-negotiable thing that you'd want to see in Pac Silica?
Well, what's important for the IT BPM industry is strong infrastructure on top of deep talent pools.
That's a whole lot to work on, but thank you so much for the update, Jack. Appreciate it. Jack Madrid of IT FAP. You're watching Money Talks. Coming right up, we'll speak to Ron Acoba of Trading Edge as the market awaits more details on what Ramon Ang's investment means for the Lopez Group. And day 15 of the impeachment trial against Vice President Sara Duterte. We get an update from the Senate from our mobile journalist Amy Atienza. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back to Money Talks. I'm Kathy Yang. The impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte enters day 15 with more testimony and legal arguments expected as the Senate continues its hearing of the case. For the latest from the Senate, let's bring in our mobile journalist, Amy Atienza. So what can we expect on today's proceedings, Amy?
Yes, Kathy, we're waiting for the cross-examination of the defense counsel to begin at around 10 in the morning today for the presentation of the witness Silene Del Campo. She is the current state auditor of the Commission on Audit, Intelligence, and Confidential Funds Auditing Unit. And yesterday, when we heard the presentation of the prosecution with regards to Del Campo, narinig natin no na meron pa ring improper use of confidential funds dahil nga doon sa paggasta nitong confidential funds ng Office of the Vice President at ng Department of Education outside the disbursement period. At kasabay din niyan ay nakita pa yung ilan sa mga pangalan na nakatanggap nga ng acknowledgement receipts na umano daw ay silang nakatanggap ng confidential funds na ginastos nga ng mga opisina ni Vice President Sara Duterte. Meron din doon sa presentation ng prosecution kung saan nga nasasabi na yung paggamit daw ng confidential funds ay hindi na ayon doon sa Joint Circular 2015-01 kung saan merong pinagamitan ng confidential funds sa Christmas parties and the like. So this will be the center also of the presentation of the prosecution coming forward if in case kinakailangan nila ng redirect examination. But today, we are waiting for the cross-examination of the defense. Titingnan natin, Kathy, kung ano nga ba yung mga papag-usapan pa at kung ano ba yung magiging arguments or presentation and line of questioning ng defense team pagdating dito kay Silene Del Campo. And also, we are expecting a possible decision of the senator judges kung papalitan nga ba nila yung oras ng trial dahil kahapon narinig natin si Senator Judge Mig Subiri na nag-propose na 3 p.m. na nga lang din daw ulit simulan itong impeachment trial ni Vice President Sara Duterte to give more time for both parties and the senator judges to decide on whether to acquit or to convict the Vice President given the presentation of the articles of impeachment. Kathy?
Okay, maraming salamat sa update, our mobile journalist Amy Atienza. Let's take a quick check on the Philippine peso and see how that's open this Wednesday. It is weaker, 61.35 to the dollar. The peso returned to the 61 per dollar level yesterday, settling at 61.26 against the greenback. The local unit fell on dimming hopes that the U.S. and Iran can broker a deal to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. The peso also tracked the Japanese yen's decline. Traders see the peso moving today between 61 and 61.50 to the dollar. And checking in on the markets overseas, U.S. stock futures are little changed in overnight trading. S&P 500 and the Nasdaq both up by about 0.1%, and the Dow is trading flat. Asian markets a mixed bag this Wednesday. South Korea's Kospi surges 2.3%, Australia's ASX 200 down 0.33%, and Japan's Nikkei 225 trading flat. U.S. markets slipped for a second straight session as global oil prices rise over uncertainties surrounding the fate of the Hormuz Strait. The Nasdaq shed 0.6%. Both the Dow and the S&P fell 0.33% each. Philippine markets rebounded yesterday as weaker than forecast GDP tempered expectations of tighter monetary policy. The benchmark PSEI climbed 0.6% to close at 6,326. Trading activity remained tepid, with net turnover reaching 4.97 billion pesos. Market breadth was positive, with advancers edging out decliners 98 to 91. The broader all-shares index rose 0.5%, with the sectoral gauges mostly gaining ground. The 10-year government bond yields ticked up to 7.361%. And here are the corporate stories making headlines this Wednesday. Ayala Land has increased its projected capex spending to 60 billion pesos from 50 billion. The property developer plans to finish all projects scheduled for this year amid external headwinds. Ayala Land targets to deliver 13,000 residential units and 200,000 square meters of mall space. Jollibee Foods Corp has dropped 200 stores from its 2026 expansion target. In its revised outlook, Jollibee targets opening 1,000 to 1,100 stores this year, down from the original goal of 1,200 to 1,300. Jollibee's second quarter net income attributable to equity holders of parent company rose 5.7% in the second quarter to 3.4 billion pesos. But first half results dropped 13% to 4.9 billion from 5.6 billion in the previous year. Lopez-led First Gen reports a slightly better first half attributable recurring net income of 8.6 billion pesos from 8.5 billion in the previous year. This despite factoring in the effect of the 60% stake sale in its natural gas portfolio to Razon-led Prime Infra. San Miguel Corp Chairman Ramon Ang says he is not buying stakes of Gapi Lopez's cousins in Lopez Inc. He tells the Philippine Star's business editor Iris Gonzalez, quote, "They are not selling." There were rumors that Ang would buy the 71% stake of the Lopez majority, but he only acquired Gabi Lopez's Creme Investment Corp, which owns a 25.7% stake in Lopez Inc. Gonzalez reports that with Lopez Inc. valued at 45 billion pesos, the San Miguel chief may have bought Gabi Lopez's stake for 11 to 12 billion. "48 hours after Ramon Ang's acquisition of a 25.68% stake in privately held Lopez Inc., the market is waiting for more details on what the investment means for the Lopez Group, its governance, and its listed companies. Ang bought the stake from Creme Investment Corporation, the holding vehicle of the Eugenio Gabi Lopez III family branch, through his wholly owned Illumina Investment Holdings, while the remaining Lopez family branches retain majority control. Questions remain over Ang's board influence, his longer-term strategic intent, and whether his entry can help ease the group's governance overhang. Ang is set to brief the San Miguel board on the features of the transaction tomorrow on August 13th. For more, we're joined by Trading Edge Chief Investment Strategist Ron Acoba. Ron, so good to see you. Welcome back to the program.
Hi, good morning, Ms. Kathy, and thank you for having me.
Okay, so deal terms still have yet to be disclosed. What are you hearing on the ground on the ballpark numbers?
Well, same as everyone else. But if you assume that the initial rumor that the 70% stake was going to be sold for 45 billion, then if you just take the percentages, 25% stake that Ramon Ang recently bought would amount to about 16 billion pesos. But without the exact deal terms, we couldn't really know.
Okay, 16 billion. Why do those terms matter as much as the percentage stake?
Well, for me, the amount doesn't really matter. For me, in fact, having the percentage stake is the one that's going to really turn the needle, because 25% stake at the end of it, Ramon Ang will still just be a passive investor, and as what he said, he's just going to be a steady partner with the remaining Lopez heirs continuing to be the one to lead the company. So for me, it's just a shift in a minor ownership without necessarily a major change in directing the entire company.
And do you think that's a consensus in the markets, best viewed as a financial investment by RSA personally, or longer term it could be a strategic foothold in the Lopez Group, or an option for a wider transaction?
Well, previously, obviously, the expectations of the market was for the 70% to be on the selling block, right? And that it's either Razon or Ramon Ang or MVP would be the one to take that 70%. That was the initial expectation as far as market is concerned. And then, of course, from the latest transaction, it was only 25% that Ramon Ang was taking. So, in my opinion, again. For me, the way that I see how Ramon Ang does his business, perhaps in the near term or in this particular year or next year, the remaining 45% may not necessarily be on the table yet. But for me, there's no point on him taking the 25% stake without any benefit. I mean, if he takes 70%, then he can obviously control the ship and direct the company and grow it, diba? But 25%, there's no control in that, unless in other ways, San Miguel or his other companies, unlisted companies, may benefit off of that particular transaction.
Well, yeah, let me pick up on that, because a lot of the price action really was in first gen, and also a little bit of discussion on global power in San Miguel. Which part of the Lopez portfolio do you think is strategically most relevant to RSA? Is it first gen, EDC?
In the entire group, it's really FGen because of its ownership in EDC. If you isolate it, it's really EDC, which is owned by FGen, diba? So the major company to look into, it's really, as far as the listed companies are concerned, it's really FGen. So if you recall, before even the talks of a new investor into Lopez Inc. Came into play, FGen actually surged from around 15.50 to around 16 when news of an unsolicited bid came into play from Indonesia's PT Barito bidding for the entire EDC for about 5 billion or even 7 billion if you take into the EDC's debt. So that's actually what led to the initial spike. And then obviously a few days later, all of these takeover talks came into play, which pretty much supported the price of FGen at around 19 to 20 level. And then yesterday we saw a notable market movement in FGen just a day after Ramon Ang getting into Lopez Inc. So there aren't really an announcement as to why exactly FGen surged by a notable amount, bringing itself above to a new four-year high. But just piecing information here and there, it could be that even with 25% that Ramon Ang is now holding, is that perhaps he could pave the way for FGen or EDC to have some kind of collaboration or transaction between EDC or FGen or even the other generation plants between them and San Miguel Global Power.
Okay. Well, we'll be waiting on that board meeting happening in 24 hours in San Miguel. Thank you so much for joining us for your insight. Trading Edge Chief Investment Strategist Ron Acoba. And that is it for Money Talks. I'm Kathy Yang. Catch us again tomorrow at 9 a.m. Kapatid, we are One News, your side, all the time. Morning Matters returns at 9:30 a.m. Have a great day ahead.
morning mga kapatid. You're watching Morning Matters here on One News.
President Bongbong Marcos acknowledged that more needs to be done to address flooding despite improvements seen in some areas. During an inspection in flood-hit Las Piñas City yesterday, Marcos said flooding was not as severe as before, but stressed that the government's flood control efforts are far from finished. He cited the resumption of dredging operations after a 12-year moratorium, saying it has increased the carrying capacity of Metro Manila's waterways. Marcos said the government would continue working on flood control measures to help reduce the impact of flooding in affected communities.
Meanwhile, clearing operations continue in parts of Parañaque after floodwaters left mud, debris, and garbage in several areas. And mobile journalist Francis Rivera now joins us live for more details. Francis, gaano na ba karaming basura ang nakolekta dyan?
Yes, tinatayang nasa 300 tons ng basura na ang nakuha nila from over 3 days ng clearing operation dito sa may Redemptorist Channel, dito sa Baclaran, Parañaque. Actually ngayon, kita na natin yung improvement dun sa ginagawa nilang clearing operation. So as you can see, halos dito na lang sa parting unahan yung nag-build up yung mga basura kung saan mas madali nang mahakot ng mga katulad nito, membro ng tupad na nakikita rin natin ngayon na nakasuot na sila ng protective gear katulad ng bota at naka-gloves na sila at yung halos wala na tayo nakikita ang mga membro ng sentro unlike kahapon ng membro ng sentro dito sa LGU ng Parañaque na nakalubog dahil yung mga basura naman daw na hinahakot na nila, ito yung mga nakalutang na unlike daw nung mga nakaraang araw na hinahakot nila, yung mga nandun na mismo or yung mga nandun sa ilalim na itong mga to. So, meron pa rin tayong makita mga bako. So, 4 na nakikita or 5, 5 to 6 na bako yung nakikita natin na kumukuha pa rin ng basura. At yung mga miyembro ng Tupad, Sentro at MMDA, actually meron din tayo mga nakikita rito mga member or part ng BFP kung saan tumutulong na rin sila sa paghahakot ng basura. So ang ginagawa nila dito ay kinukuha nila, tinatanggal nila doon sa estero yung basura, nilalagay sa sako at nilalagay doon sa mga truck para daw mas mabilis ang paghakot at pag-alis ng mga basura dito sa Redemptorist Channel sa isang creek dito sa Baclaran.
Alright, maraming salamat para sa report na yan at mag-ingat ka. That was mobile journalist Francis Rivera.
Caloocan 2nd District Representative Edgar Erices said the government must look beyond anomalous flood control projects and address solid waste management as a major cause of flooding in Metro Manila. In an interview with One News Political Beat, Erices said Metro Manila is among the areas receiving the biggest allocations for flood control, but argued that infrastructure projects alone cannot solve the region's flooding problem. He claimed that garbage collection contractors fail to collect a significant portion of solid waste, leaving garbage in drainage systems and waterways that can worsen flooding during heavy rains. Erices said the government should ensure that flood control projects are based on a comprehensive master plan rather than individual lawmakers' initiatives.
Bukod dun sa mga anomalous flood control projects, ang pinakamalaking dahilan ng flooding sa Metro Manila is not the projects, but solid waste.
Okay.
Nakita naman natin sa Parañaque. And because ang dahilan din yan, corruption. Kasi sa Metro Manila, yung garbage collection ng mga local governments, lahat yan, ang tawag nila dyan, collect all.
Ano po ibig sabihin nun?
Ibig sabihin, babayaran lahat ng mga contractors, babayaran ng certain amount. For example, collect all garbage for 10,000 a month. Oh. So, pipirmahan lang yon na na-collect, babayaran na sila ng 10,000. Oh. Pero ang totoo nun, they are just collecting 40 to 50% of the solid waste. At lahat ng 50 to 60% nasa mga drainage, nasa mga creeks, na hindi naman nakokolekta.
In other news, the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte enters day 15, today with the use of confidential funds still under scrutiny. COA Auditor Sardine Del Campo is expected to continue her testimony after detailing audit findings on the OVP and DepEd funds, including acknowledgement receipts issued in different parts of the country on the same day. Del Campo also testified that COA disallowed 375 million pesos in OVP confidential funds for the first 3 quarters of 2023. The Senate Impeachment Court continues to examine Duterte's alleged misuse of 612.5 million pesos in confidential funds.
And now for more insights on the legal issues emerging from the impeachment trial, we're now joined by UP Law Professor Attorney John Molo. Good morning, Attorney. Welcome back to the program.
Good morning. Good to be back.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. Well, Attorney, we had a very interesting hearing yesterday where more irregularities were uncovered. But what did you make of the testimony of State Auditor Silene Del Campo? Did it strengthen or weaken the prosecution's case?
Well, let me put it this way. Today, the defense is scheduled to do its cross-examination. And based on what has happened in the past few hearings, I think those witnesses has made its job very challenging, so to speak. These are public servants, and it's very hard to impeach them on the usual basis that we use as lawyers, precisely because these are public servants who are simply doing their job. And they came up as honest, earnest, and competent. So I don't look forward to being part of the defense because it's gonna be very challenging.
Well, on the activities mentioned yesterday during the trial, such as Christmas parties, gift giving, etc., for an ordinary person's point of view, what actually constitute a legitimate confidential operations? Because yesterday, the defense argued that the gathering itself is not a confidential operation, but ensuring the safety of the people attending is the one that they say that confidential, no? So, does it qualify as a legitimate operation?
Well, if commenters say that, I think they're confusing different items in the budget. There is a separate item in the budget for the security, MOE also, of our VIPs. Okay, so that's a different line item in the budget. So we don't really use confidential funds to secure the security of our VIPs. That's why we have the PSG and all of these agencies actually who focus on that. The confusing part about confidential funds is really traceable to the fact that these are lump sums. The normal way for you to utilize a budget is using a line item. For example, in the budget, it should appear that for a road farm to market road, we will allot 5 million this year, coming from this barangay to this barangay. For 5 classrooms in this district, we will allot 10 million. If you see the budget for confidential funds, it simply just says confidential funds for the office of the vice president, 500 million. That's where the problem actually starts. Because if some of you remember, I'm aging myself here, the Napoles scandal,
Yes.
the PDAC, remember? We handled that case in the Supreme Court. So I argue that. And one of the things that we were also arguing, aside from the pork barrel that must be unconstitutional, were the lump sum funds. Because precisely, if you don't fix the problem of lump sum funds, this is gonna keep on repeating. So what really happened here is that in the past, confidential funds, and this is all available in the public websites of government, the DBM, you can check. In the past, confidential funds were really just centralized in the office of the president and a couple of other intelligence-related agencies, the ND, DALG, Peace and Order. And even the office of the president himself, who is the commander-in-chief, commander-in-chief of the AFP. So definitely he needs access to confidential information intelligence. He only gets 500 million per year. Pinoy on his last year got 500 million. Even GMA, around 600 million lang. When Duterte came in 2016, it started ballooning. 1 billion, 2 billion. And now I believe for 2027, the proposal for OP is around 7 billion. Diba? So when that by itself was a problem. And then when Unitin won in 2022, a lot of people were actually surprised in the budget when they started allocating confidential funds in the vice president's office of 500 million, several hundred millions. When if you look at the purpose of a vice president, that's surprising because a vice president is what we call a constitutional spare tire.
Right.
The vice president wakes up every morning, asks one question: is the president still alive? If the answer is yes, she goes back to sleep. That's the joke about what a vice president does. So why does she need 500 million pesos as confidential funds? That's really the source of much of what we're facing here. So that long history of how confidential funds was actually maintained by the Supreme Court and not stricken down, got ballooned during the 30 years, and now extends to OVP and even other agencies that are not connected with peace and order.
All right, Attorney, the defense and the prosecution are still clashing when it comes to the stipulation on the ARs, despite concessions from the prosecution. Why do you think this is still so contentious?
Well, to be honest, it shouldn't be. They're practically using the same set of documents, but if there's going to be some differences between a couple, or even say out of the 4,000 documents, a few hundred documents, that's where the comparison proposed by the presiding officer should come in. And it would have fixed the problem and expedited the proceedings. So I share the frustration of the rest of the public at this point that how come this comparison hasn't happened yet? I believe a date was set last week. It didn't push through. So bakit? Diba? Parang ano ba talaga gusto nyo? Mag-compare. Ngayon, pinag-compare kayo, ayaw nyo mag-compare. So it's really just, at this point, I understand where the public is coming from.
Well, Attorney, yesterday, State Auditor Silene Del Campo also testified and even presented their findings on who is the accountable officer, or the persons who have been identified as liable for the transactions. And of course, among them is Vice President Sara Duterte, because she approved the transactions, including the utilization of the cash advances. So, malinaw na po ba yun, Attorney, no? Because I remember last week, Senator Amy Marcos was questioning this exact matter to Attorney Roderick Wamil, na ang accountable officer for her or the SDOs?
Well, no. Under the COA circular, the head of agency is accountable. That much is clear. You have the SDO, and if the SDO doesn't do their job, then dalawa kayo na hindi accountable. It doesn't really relieve. You can't pass that buck. The buck really, especially for a confidential fund that you sign off on. In order for these things to happen, the funding transferring from the office, the agency, from the bank, going to the SDO, there are signatures, and that signature is the head of agency. So, not entirely accurate to say that.
So, pwede bang Attorney, can that be considered a sort of a smoking gun for the prosecution? The fact that the Vice President signed these accomplishment reports, these cash advances, all these documents?
Well, to be fair, technically, it only proves that she authorized the cash advance. The prosecution is yet to prove that these activities were unauthorized. Okay? Kasi so far, ang narinig nating testimony is that according to the COA auditor, these activities don't fall under the list of approved. Now, it would really be, kumbaga, it will close the loop or the circle if the prosecution can identify whether or not the said recipients are fictitious or ghost recipients. That still needs to be shown.
Well, the defense has been pointing out that there was no evidence that the Vice President has actually pocketed the money. No, so does the prosecution actually need to establish prove where every peso went, or can a pattern of irregular withdrawals, inadequate documentation, and questionable liquidation can establish already culpable violation of the Constitution's or betrayal of public trust?
For culpable violation of the Constitution, you don't need to trace how each centavo was actually utilized or went to the bank account of the public official. I think you can use that for the crime of plunder because of a Supreme
Right.
Court case. But this is not plunder. This is a betrayal of public trust, public accountability to. So it's enough for these purposes to show that you authorize the release of 125 million ba from the land bank on one
Oh.
day, 4 times, and then straight to duffel bags, and then to a security officer, not the SDO. That by itself is quite damning because now we really need to know the explanation why you needed to do that. Because any Filipino is quite surprised. Ako, pag nag-withdraw ako, minsan tatawagan ka pa, di ba, ng cashier, 5,000,
Yes.
2,000 lang. Para lang sa, sir, pera ko naman yan, di naman yung public funds. Ito public funds, lumalabas 125
Right.
million diretso sa
Oo,
duffel
oo.
bag. So parang, here, this is not the crime of plunder we're trying. We're trying impeachment. So the question is to be asked is, are we comfortable with a public official who can authorize these huge amounts of withdrawals, 125 million in one go in cash, give it to a security officer? Are we comfortable with this officer remaining in power and having access to this kind of funding? Yun yung tanong sa impeachment.
Right.
All right. Well, Attorney, another thing we got from Ms. Del Campo's testimony yesterday was that the first and second quarter 2023 DepEd liquidations, they passed the audit because of certifications attesting to the successful operations funded by confidential funds. So they showed that it is possible for them to comply. What does this do for the case of the defense when it comes to the periods that the respondents' offices were not able to comply?
That's a very good question because now, if you say only 69 million was justified, it doesn't erase the fact that, well, you're accountable for the whole kabuto. I mean, 300 million yung kinuha nyo sa confidential funds eh. Hindi pwedeng 69 na justify naman namin. Remember, in the Sandigan Bayan, we convict principals for 5,000 pesos, district supervisors for 10,000 pesos. Di ba? Nakukulong eh. So, the justice system has to be able to show, our political systems, should be able to show that these forms of accountability should apply across the board. Kasi ang punto dito is accountability. Kumuha ka ng hundreds of millions, ginastos ninyo, okay? Sumunod ba kayo sa proseso ng paggastos? Now, to be fair, if these are confidential operations, then I'm not talking about what the defense will do. I'm talking about, in general, how they're actually played out. For example, let's just use the United States as a good example. You will have an operational ledger. The operational ledger will be the confidential information that you don't disclose publicly. That's where the real activities, the real names, addresses, and locations of your witnesses and informants are. Then you have a public ledger. The public ledger is the one that's more accessible. Now, if these were real confidential activities or intelligence-related activities, there would be an operational ledger. I think, if you recall, it was Senator Lacson who was asking these questions. Ito yung parang pinatutumbukan niya. Kung mag-audit ka ng confidential funds, ito lang ba ginawa mo? Parang ang pinatutumbukan niya, kasi ito yon, meron naman talagang ganitong two-book system for intelligence operations, di ba? Kasi, halimbawa, Mary Grace Piatos could actually be an informant. Now, in order to prove that, then you have to give access to the operational ledger to the auditor. Yun yung gap.
Right. Well, Attorney, yesterday, Ms. Del Campo also confirmed that they did issue notices of disallowance to the OVP. But the defense team maintains that this is not final, that they can still appeal this. They have 180 days to do that. And they can still file a motion for reconsideration, I believe, until October. Now, how does that affect the impeachment trial? And tama po ba yung interpretation nila na it's not yet final and executory?
Well, I don't know how that actually affects an impeachment, considering that the impeachment happens outside of the judicial system. So the final and executory really affects the process within the judicial system. Whether or not pwedeng kasuhan ng plunder yung SDO, yung head of agency, kailangan maging final yung assessment o di ba ng COA. But whether or not ma-impeach, hiwalay na proseso kasi siya. So parang iba kasi yung sistema ng impeachment, it's extant of the judicial system natin. Iba naman kasi yun. So, pwede mong i-argue na factually, hindi pa naman, but then again, may sagot din yung prosecution dyan eh. Kasi parang ako instinctively, tinatanong ko ba't di nyo pa i-appeal?
Oo.
Kasi attorney, parang ang punto dito ng defense is dapat presumed innocent pa rin ang Vice President because they can still appeal this, because they can appeal and overturn the notice of disallowance of the Commission on Audit. So does the court need to give them ample time to do that before they rule on this, before they decide on whether there was indeed misuse of confidential funds?
Okay. The presumption of innocence applies for criminal prosecutions. Okay, let's clarify that. The presumption of innocence applies for criminal prosecutions. In impeachment, no one is going to jail. Public office is a privilege. Walang Pilipinong pinanganak na merong karapatang maging presidente or maging public official. It's a privilege to hold public office. So it's not a right. Okay. So ang pinag-uusapan lang kasi sa impeachment, karapat dapat ka pa rin ba manatili sa posisyon. We're not depriving you of life, liberty, or property here. Public office is not your property. So bitaw, pag na patunayan na may ginawa kang mali, di ba? Jadi bitaw 'yon. Ibang presumption of innocence na with respect to this appeal, iba 'yon. That's for the plunder or graft complaint that's coming in. Here ang pinag-uusapan lang, it's like an HR proceeding. Nahuli ka, is explain, mukhang may ginastos kayo sa petty cash, tapos hindi nyo na-account. Hindi mo na pwede sabihin, I'm presumed innocent. Well, hiwalay yung theft. Ang tanong lang, mananatiling pa ba sa kumpanya dito sa One News?
Well, I think for context, attorney, yung sinasabi nilang final and executory na decision ng notice of allowance is yung 73 million. Pero itong 300 plus na to, ito yung sinasabi nila na pwede pa mag-reply within 180 days yung yung Office of the Vice President. But attorney, moving forward dito sa aking, I wanna ask you for the sake of balance argument din, doon sa side po ng mga supporters ng Vice President like si Harry Roque, he said in his post, and I quote, hindi naman binulsa, napunta sa tao, hindi ba good yun, dapat ba kinurakot? This as per argument that the confidential funds used for libreng sakay, rice and tupad program. So, what do you make of that statement na, okay, hindi naman siya ninakaw di ba? Maganda pa rin naman, supposedly, allegedly, yung pinagpuntahan ng confidential funds.
Well, we've heard that before. When Erap was impeached, his defense was, hindi naman ako nagnakaw kasi yung pera you're accusing me of ay actually galing sa bribes ng mga alleged wedding lords, tobacco, ganyan. So parang that's not the point of impeachment. Ang tanong, may pumasok na pera sa opisina mo, hundreds of millions. Ginasta mo para sa mga purposes na hindi naman aayon kung anong nakalagay sa batas. Kaya nga umalma yung COA. Ngayon, ang sasabihin natin is, hindi, nabusog naman yung TODA na minute ko. Okay yun. Actually, pabor nga ako Pabor nga ako sa basic income. Mamigay na lang tayo ng 10,000 pesos kung gagawin nyo lang totoo, right? Ang problema, hindi mo pwede gamitin kasi confidential funds. Why? Ginagawa mong petty cash ang confidential fund. Ang confidential fund, that's for peace and order, intelligence, di ba? So, gumamit ka ng tamang pondo. Kasi, ang sa akin, ang sagot ko dyan, bakit yung certain officials may pribileyo na mamili kung anong pondo ang gagamitin para sa kung anong paraan? Samantalang yung teacher, pag ginamit niya yung konting pondo para bumili ng eraser or chalk, hindi para sa student enrichment, natatanggal sa DepEd. Ba't ganun?
Exactly.
Well, Attorney, when it comes to Article 1, with all the violations named by the co-witnesses, no supporting documents, spending on things that aren't allowed in the joint circular, third parties disbursing confidential funds, incurring expenses before the cash advance was released, is this enough for the prosecution to move on? Or are there more things that they still need to establish?
Well, again, right? So it's not for me. It's compelling, but it's not yet enough. You still need to close the loop in terms of really showing that okay, the money went out, and it was not justified. Okay, meron ng konti na merong that's why I'm saying it's compelling, but it's not yet a closed loop because I'm really interested because if what Senator Lacson is implying is correct, then we really need to know whether or not these operations were in fact confidential intelligence gathering operations. Kasi pag yun butas talaga, ang hirap na ng trabaho ng defense pag ganun.
But attorney, how competent do you think Ms. Sailin Del Campo is as a witness? Because today, in the cross-examination of defense, they will most likely try to discredit her.
Well, me, I as a lawyer, I really don't like cross-examining public servants. You know, the frontline public servants, hindi yung mga politiko in power. The frontline public servants are very difficult to cross-examine because these are people who are simply doing their jobs. And if you think about it, they're very young. This young auditor, even the NBI agents, they're young. Diba? They were simply just idealistic people who were given a task and then anong gusto nyong pigain sa kanila, that they are biased, that they're it's difficult to cross-examine these kinds of people, especially if they're earnest. So it's challenging. There's a very deep bag of tools and tricks for any lawyer to draw on in order to impeach the credibility, consistency, and competence of a witness. Yeah, but except that for a public servant who is earnest and doesn't seem to be swimming in corruption, it's always a challenge to do that. So I don't envy the defense right now kasi remember, marami sa mga nanonood public servant din. So pag naramdaman ng mga nanonood na inaapi yung isa sa kanila kasi they identify with that, di ba? Masakit yun. So you can't go overboard. I saw that with Estelito Mendoza during the previous impeachments. Nung pag nag-overboard siya, he had to recalibrate. Bumabait siya bigla. Kasi nga, the tide of public sentiment can turn that fast because Filipinos will identify with these witnesses considering that they are, in fact, these are just auditors, right? They're doing their job.
Exactly. But attorney, gaano po ba kaimportante yung pinunto ni COA Auditor Sailin Del Campo na they issued the notice of disallowances sa Office of the Vice President because of the mere admission of the SDO, Special Disbursement Officer ng OVP, na ibinigay po nila yung cash advance or yung funds doon sa head of the security of the Vice President upon her instruction, which is, sabi po niya, ito ay nag-violate po nung Joint Circular 2015, particularly the 6.1.1, no, na hindi po pwedeng ibinibigay kung kani-kanino or unauthorized person yung confidential funds. So gaano po ka-importante yung punto na yon?
Well, it's important because it sort of, in the eyes of the auditor, it sort of establishes that the process was not really followed. But that also opens an opportunity for the defense to question, how did you come about with that knowledge? Or how exactly did you know that what was said was being true? There are answers to these questions, of course. But definitely, I believe that witness will have to account kung paano niya na-acquire yung knowledge na yon and why did she move officially based on that information alone? Kailangan niya explain yun.
Right.
May effect in terms of the substance, but in terms of the process, may opening yung defense dyan.
Well, Attorney, you touched on this a little bit a while ago, but with regard to the cases in the DOJ, tuloy ang grave threats, na-dismiss ang inciting to sedition. For the public, what is the best way to break down how the DOJ and the impeachment cases are different and why they don't affect each other?
Okay. So, when you issue a threat to the president, it can be me, it can be any one of you, di ba? May mababiolate kang batas, yung crime na yon, ikukulong mo yan. Ngayon, kung private citizen ka, ang problema lang natin, yung sa DOJ. Kasi, krimen, makukulong. However, if yung nag-issue ng threat is a public official, and then yung public official na yon is an impeachable official, impeach mo siya para matanggal. Ang purpose kasi talaga ng impeachment is, ganito ko siya i-encapsulate. Pwede bang manatili in power ang isang public official na tinitreaten na papatayin niya or ipapapatay niya ang presidente pag nag-away sila? The president still has around 1.5 years to go. So, will that be for the stability of the country or instability? Yun yung value choice ng impeachment. Ngayon, sa DOJ naman, ang tanong is, dapat bang makulong yung taong yan? So, posible na matanggal ang isang tao because ayaw nating manatili ang isang powerful official habang nandyan pa yung presidente. Kasi parang lumalabas, pag nag-aaway sila, mag-hire ka ng assassin. O teka muna, just to preserve the stability of the country, tanggalin na lang muna natin siya. Total, wala namang ginagawa ang vice president talaga, di ba? Spare tayo yan. Pero, dapat ba siya makulong? Baka naman hindi. Di ba? That might be too harsh. Kasi, ang ihiwalay na yon na usapan. So, ganun ko siya pinaprocess. Kasi, again, impeachment is just to remove you from the office.
Alright, and on that note, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us as always. Sabay-sabay po tayo manood ng impeachment trial. That was UP Law Professor Attorney John Molo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, it is day 15 of the impeachment trial against Vice President Sara Duterte, and it is now underway. Let's watch this.
Sinasamo sa inyo, Panginoon. Amen.
Amen. The clerk of court will now call the roll.
Roll call of members. Senator Judge Aquino. Senator Judge Cayetano Alan. Senator Judge Cayetano Pia. Senator Judge De La Rosa. Senator Judge Ejercito. Senator Judge Estrada. Senator Judge Go. Senator Judge Ontiveros. Senator Judge Lacson. Senator Judge Lapid. Senator Judge Legarda. Senator Judge Marcoleta. Senator Judge Marcos. Senator Judge Padilla. Senator Judge Pangilinan, Senator Judge Soto III, Senator Judge Tulfo Erwin, Senator Judge Tulfo Rafi, Senator Judge Villanueva, Senator Judge Villar Camille, Senator Judge Villar Mark, Senator Judge Zubiri, the presiding officer, Senator Judge Escudero, Senate President, Senator Judge Gatchalian.
With 18 senator judges present, the chair declares the presence of a quorum. In accordance with the rules of procedure on impeachment trial, the chair now recognizes the duly elected presiding officer to preside over the proceedings of the impeachment court.
Thank you, Mr. Senate President. If there are no objections, we shall dispense with the reading of the Journal of August 11, 2026 of the Senate sitting as an impeachment court and shall consider the same as approved. The clerk of court will please call the case before the impeachment court.
Case number 004-2026 in the matter of impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Zimmerman Duterte.
Appearances of the parties.
Same appearance for the public prosecutors. We're ready, Your Honor.
Same appearance for the respondent, Your Honor. We are ready.
Chair would like to direct the clerk of court through the OSA to kindly escort the witness, Ms. Eileen, to the witness stand to continue with her testimony.
Your Honor.
While she's being led to the witness stand, yes, what is the pleasure of the Honorable Chua?
Your Honor, I understand that this is a continuation of the direct testimony of our witness. May we request the counsel for the prosecutor, Attorney Kapunan, be recognized, Your Honor, please.
I believe the counsel for the panel of prosecutors, Attorney Lorna, terminated her direct yesterday. We are on cross today. Is that correct, Attorney Lorna? How is your platform, ma'am?
I pray that I do not fall from the apple cart. Your Honor, please, good morning, Mr. Presiding Officer, Honorable Impeachment Senate Judges, Senate Court Judges. We are disturbed, Your Honor. Although yesterday we terminated our direct examination, we are disturbed by a manifestation of counsel for the respondent when she said that the marking of the tabulations and summaries will no way be an admission, Your Honor, as to the authenticity of the acknowledgement receipts which form part of the tabulation and the summary, Your Honor. We therefore are constrained unless counsel now is willing to stipulate that the summaries which really, and the tabulation, which was really personally prepared by this competent witness of the COA ICFAO, which office received, and all acknowledgement receipts have an attestation that they are certified true copies of the person who has custody of the same, Your Honor. May we inquire from counsel of respondent if, again, although the presiding officer did make it clear that when each individual acknowledgement receipt is presented, they have the right to cross-examine. And we have the right to ask the witness. Our concern, Your Honor, is the next witnesses that we will be presenting will not have any personal knowledge of these acknowledgement receipts. They will not be able to identify and authenticate. The only person who can do that, Your Honor, is the current witness, Silene May Del Campo. Now, we are constrained, Your Honor. To save the time of this honorable court, this presiding officer will recall that it also ordered, Your Honor, that the prosecution and the defense submit separately the list of documents, specifically acknowledgement receipts, to the clerk of court, which office will be the one to make the comparison, Your Honor. Can we modify that order, Your Honor? Can we request, Your Honor, that in addition to the clerk of court comparing the prosecution evidence and the defense evidence, an exercise which should have been done Thursday and Friday last week, Your Honor, that instead of just doing that, that this witness appear before the clerk of court to identify and authenticate, Your Honor, these documents in front of the prosecution, in front of the defense, and in front of the clerk of court. Thereafter, the clerk of court can make a finding or report or evaluation that these documents, I'm sorry, that these documents were properly identified, authenticated by this witness, Your Honor, to preempt any technical legal objection in the future. Because, Your Honor, or in the formal offer, Your Honor, because counsel will recall, or this court will recall, that while we had already ended our direct examination, counsel for respondent said that does not mean that this witness identified and authenticated the acknowledgement receipts. And therefore, Your Honor, if we may respectfully request the presiding officer to authorize or to designate the clerk of court to accept, Your Honor, not only the documents, but likewise for this witness to appear before the clerk of court in front of counsels for both respondent and the prosecution to enable this witness to identify and authenticate, based on personal knowledge, Your Honor, the documents that are part of the summaries, Your Honor. This way, Your Honor, we will not have to present again acknowledgement receipts this morning and identify each and every one. So, in sum, Your Honor, my manifestation is to the effect that we expand the directive of the presiding officer directing the parties to separately submit their documents, and for the clerk to itself, clerk of court's office to itself, make the comparison. We want to expand it to include that this witness, Ms. Silene, appear before the clerk of court in the presence of counsels for the petitioner and for the respondent for the purpose of one, identifying, and two, authenticating the documents in the tabulation, Your Honor. This will save the court 2 hours today.
Your Honor,
Counsel, before you respond, Attorney Christine, Counsel, does your manifestation have anything to do with the fact that you wound up your direct? Does that mean you intend to proceed with your direct again today?
No, Your Honor. If
so, your direct is done.
Your
it's
Honor,
a manifestation in regard to the ARs.
Your Honor, it depends on the discretion of the presiding officer. If the presiding officer will allow this witness to appear before the clerk of court in front of both counsels, Your Honor, for the purpose of identifying and authenticating the documents presented, Your Honor, then we will terminate our direct examination.
I believe you already did yesterday, Counsel.
Yes, Your Honor, but under the control, private prosecutor, Your Honor, is under the control and supervision of the panel of public prosecutors who had expressed to this representation their concern about a possible objection, a technical objection of the defense counsel on the issue of identification and authentication of these separate acknowledgement receipts. So, Your Honor.
In the interest of moving forward, don't worry, Attorney Silene. No need to comment. The chair will make a ruling. Last night, the acknowledgement receipts that came from the counsel for respondents were submitted already to the clerk of court for comparison with the ARs of the prosecution. Both are certified through copies. Although some ARs are certified by a different certifying officer from COA, but both are certified through copies, and we will proceed with the comparison. It was clear from the witness yesterday, and it's clear to the court, that she based her tabulation on the ARs that she said were all certified by the same person. That's your copy, counsel. And we took note of that and acknowledged that. These are certified true copies from both sides which we will compare to avoid that situation from happening. And we will be ruling on the admissibility of these ARs once it is formally offered based on this comparison, without need for Silene really to tell us that they look alike or alike. But counsel, as of yesterday, insofar as the randomly picked or well chosen ARs yesterday, counsel for the respondent did not raise their copies apparently, or we will know now at cross. Apparently, there is no discrepancy or difference when you were presenting those ARs to the witness. And again, that is their right to present their copy because their theory is they're questioning, correct me if I'm wrong, Attorney Silene, the chain of custody. That it might have been broken. But if it's not broken insofar as the ARs, and after we compare it, then there is no need to further belabor this point. We will rule on the matter, counsel, at the appropriate time. But I'm telling you already where the court is at this point in time in relation to the ARs that Silene testified to and where she based her tables and summaries upon. And that is the copies of the prosecutor. I hope that settles the issue, counsel.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. I think with that ruling, it is now clear that identification and authentication are presumed from the statement of the presiding officer subject to cross-examination of counsel for the respondent, Your Honor.
And subject to the comparison that the clerk will be making of these copies coming from both parties, which we will make known to the parties without need of Silene's presence thereat.
Okay. My last manifestation, Your Honor, and this is for purposes of clarity, because at the end of yesterday's hearing, the parties stayed, counsel for both parties stayed to mark the tabulations, Your Honor. And for purposes of the record, can we just state, for the office of the Vice President, tabulations were marked in front of the clerk of court after the hearing, P-1-29 for December 2022 last quarter, the period December 21.
Before you continue, counsel, the one you mentioned is the one made by Attorney Wamil.
Yes, Your Honor.
And the subsequent ones will be the ones made by Ms. Eileen.
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
So these have been marked after the hearing, Your Honor, upon direction of the presiding officer, so as to make efficient use of time of the impeachment court. So for the last quarter, tabulation made by Mr. Wamil, Attorney Wamil, was marked yesterday as P-1-29. For the first quarter of the office of the Vice President, it's P-1-30. For the second quarter of the office of the Vice President, it is P-1-31. And for the third quarter of the office of the Vice President, marked as P-1-32. Before the clerk of court and in the presence of defense, respondents' counsel, and prosecution's counsel. A summary of these tabulations was likewise marked for December 2022, P-1-29-1, which we have now, Your Honor, P-1-30-1 for the first quarter of the office of the Vice President, P-1-31-1 for the second quarter, and P-1-32-1, also which we have now, Your Honor, for the third quarter. For the DepEd, Your Honor, we likewise marked at the end of yesterday's hearing tabulations prepared personally by this witness and identified before the impeachment court, P-1-33 for the first quarter, P-1-34 for the second quarter, and P-1-35, all tabulations. For the summary, Your Honor, of these tabulations, P-1-33-1 for the first quarter of the DepEd, P-1-34-1 for the second quarter of the DepEd, and P-1-35-1, Your Honors, for the third quarter of the DepEd. With that, Your Honor, unless counsel...
Duly noted, counsel. The markings mentioned by Attorney Capuna and Attorney Lorna are duly noted.
We therefore reiterate that we have terminated our direct examination, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, counsel. Attorney Christine, you may proceed with your cross when you are ready. You may proceed, ma'am.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Celine. Is that the way that you pronounce your name, Celine?
Silene.
Silene, okay. So, you have been with the COA since 2014, right?
August 26, 2014 po.
August 26. So that is around 12 years already.
Yes po, magti 12 years.
Okay. You assumed the accounts of the Vice President, the audit of the confidential funds of the Vice President and the DepEd when Attorney Wamil was reassigned to COA, Pasay, correct?
Opo, tama po.
Curious lang ako, Ms. Silene, was that reassignment a promotion or just a plain reassignment, if you know?
Yung kay Mr. Wamil
Yes.
po. Na-reassign po siya.
Reassignment lang. Okay. So, that was on February 12, 2024.
Opo, tama po.
So, Mr. Wamil was the one who prepared the AOMs for the fourth quarter of 2024 for the OVP. Tama?
Yung AOM po is for the fourth quarter of 2022.
2022 rather.
Opo.
Okay? And he also prepared the AOM for the first and second quarter of 2023.
Ng OBP po.
Okay. So, we will go back to that, no? So, when Mr. Wamil reassigned to you his account, was there any office memorandum that was issued by the COA
Your Honor,
reassigning
please,
you as the examiner?
The question is misleading, Your Honor. It is not Mr. Wamil who reassigned the account to her. She just occupied the position, Your Honor.
The question was if there was an office memorandum assigning her to take over from Wamil, not Wamil himself. Witness may answer.
Yung sa assignment po kasi namin, ang hawak
No,
namin...
just please answer the question. Was there an office memorandum assigning you to handle the accounts of the OVP and the DepEd, particularly the confidential audit of these two offices?
Meron po kaming order na ako po ang assigned na maghawak ng national government agencies po.
Particularly the Office of the Vice President and the DepEd. Meron ho kayo nun?
Ask and answer, Your Honor.
Hindi. My question was specific. No, I'm referring to the DepEd and the OVP.
Witness may answer.
These are national agencies,
Your Honor, please, can the council allow me to continue my
Ask
question?
and answer, Your Honor.
Witness may answer, counsels. May memorandum po ba na nag-assign sa inyo specifically sa DepEd at OVP?
Yung memorandum po is naka-assign ako sa national government agencies.
All?
Okay.
Opo.
Okay, I accept that answer, Your Honor. Was it Mr. Wamil who personally turned over his files to you?
Iniwan po niya yung files niya sa office po nung malipat po siya sa COA Pasay.
Sa kaninong office? Sa iyo or kaninong office ba?
Sa custodian po namin sa COA ICFAO.
Okay. So, meron ho ba siyang iniwan na endorsement sa inyo? Na ito lahat yung mga files na iniwan ko for this particular account. Meron ho ba? For the OVP, mayroon ho bang siyang iniwan na endorsement?
Yung mismong mga files po, iniwan po niya sa custodian namin.
Endorsement ho, like letter, a summary containing all containing a list of the files that he turned over to the custodian. Meron ho bang ganon?
Meron po kaming logbook pag natapos na po yung
Logbook.
namin.
Okay, pero dala mo ba yun ngayon?
Hindi po.
Okay. So how about dun sa DepEd? May iniwan ho ba siyang transmittal doon sa custodian na ito lahat yung mga iniwan kong files with regard to the audit of the DepEd confidential funds? Meron ho ba?
Ang iniwan po niya is yung mismong documents.
Yung mismong document. So walang transmittal na iniwan ho dun sa custodian.
Yung mismong documents po ang iniwan.
Okay, sige. May iniwan ho ba si Mr. Wamil sa inyo? Di ba sabi niyo may mga documents ho siyang iniwan. Di ba pag nag-audit ho tayo, meron ho tayong tinatawag na working papers. Yung mga drafts po natin. May iniwan ho si Mr. Wamil sa inyo noon?
Your Honor, please, again, the question is misleading. This witness already said, asked and answered, that Mr. Wamil did not leave documents to her. Mr. Wamil left the documents to the office.
I will rephrase, Your Honor.
Kindly rephrase,
Okay,
counsel.
may
iniwan
iniwan-
bang worksheets sa custodian?
Yes po.
Nakasama po doon sa files yung mga working papers po.
Alright. I'll take that answer. Kayo ho, paano nyo kinuha yung mga files na yun? Kinuha nyo lang diretso sa custodian? Ano pong proseso nun?
Nung ma-assign po sa akin yung sa OBP at sa DepEd, nung nag-submit po sila ng response, ibinigay po sa akin yung response together with the documents na pinagbasehan po nung audit observation memorandum po.
Okay. So in short, niroute lang sa'yo yung response. Tama ho?
Response together with
Yeah.
yung AOM, together with the attachment po na yung mga dokumento.
Okay. So, kailan ho yan niroute sa inyo? Yung response, yung AOM, mga estimate lang po.
Iba-iba po kasi, di ba ang una is yung March 13, 2024 na response nila sa NS. Naibigay po sa akin to March 14. Yung sa iba po, hindi ko na matandaan yung exact dates, pero malapit po dun sa after masubmit yung response.
Alright. I'll take that answer. Okay. So, Wamil prepared the AOM for the fourth quarter of 2022 for the Office of the Vice President. Tama po?
Opo.
How about the first to third quarters of 2023? Sino ho ba yung nag-prepare ng AOMs na yun? Dalawa ho yun.
Yung sa OBP po na first and second quarter 2023, nandun pa po siya nung ma-issue po yung AOM. Yung sa third quarter po, siya yung nag-draft. Pero nung na-finalize na po yun, wala na po siya sa COA ICFAO. So yung custody po ng document na yun, nasa division chief. Kaya nung finalize po yun, division chief na po yung nag-finalize.
Okay. So, all right. Sige, we will flash this AOMs, no? Kasi nga si Mr. Wamil nga yung nag-prepare nung iba sa kanila, no? Sige.
May we know from counsel which AOM she will be flashing? Is it the defendant's document or the prosecution's document? Because the defendant's documents were not identified nor presented to this witness, Your Honor. Then if counsel wants to confront the witness with documents she has identified, she has to use the prosecution's evidence, because that was the one identified by the witness. If she now intends to present the defense documents, they are not documents that have been identified nor authenticated by this witness during her testimony. We will
She can confront
have
the-
a continuing objection. Excuse me, counsel. We will have a continuing objection to their presenting their documents which have not been identified by the witness. They are AOMs. AOMs have been identified by the witness, but these are prosecution's AOMs, Your Honor. May I suggest, Your Honor, to the defense counsel, since she refused for us to use the defense witnesses, that she uses now the prosecution's documents.
That is up to her, counsel. She may confront the witness with her copy of the AOM. I'm sure she would be competent to testify whether these are the same documents earlier identified as exhibits for the prosecution or not. Counsel, you may proceed.
Yes, correct, Your Honor. And their AOMs, we did not dispute those. So we have the same copies, Your
Can
Honor.
we then,
Proceed, counsel.
in
Proceed.
connection with that, Your Honor,
Hello.
since counsel admits that our AAMs are their defendants' AOMs, can we just use the prosecution's copies, Your Honor?
But, Your Honor, we have prepared,
Counsel,
visual aid using
Show
the-
them, show the document.
Yeah, I will. I am showing the defense document.
No, we will
No,
not agree,
Your Honor, the counsel cannot
We will
dictate
not
how I
agree,
will
Your
proceed
Honor.
with my cross-examination. Can the counsel, Your Honor, be reminded that I'm on
counsel
cross-examination?
We
for-
will not agree,
respondent.
Your Honor, to
What are you not
presentation
agreeing
of
to,
the
Attorney
defense
Kapunan?
documents.
I'm sorry?
Because precisely there was no stipulation yesterday.
There
They
was,
are
Your
now
Honor.
constrained. Excuse me, counsel.
Allow her to finish, counsel.
They are now constrained, Your Honor. I'm sorry. They are now constrained to use our documents precisely. This is what we wanted to avoid yesterday. Had we did a comparison, not to belabor the obvious, Your Honor, but now counsel says, anyway, it's the same. So if
Your
it's the same, what's the objection to using the prosecution's document?
Counsel, that water is already under the bridge. You may request assisting counsel to check the copy being presented to Ms. Eileen, and you may make this the subject matter of your redirect later on. Allow counsel to present.
Thank you,
the
Your
presiding
Honor.
officer will allow the counsel to present that document, but notes the continuing objection of Attorney
Thank you, Your
Kapunan with
Honor.
respect to this matter.
Thank you, Your
Attorney
Honor.
Christine, you may proceed.
Okay, so I am presenting you the AOMs that were issued to the Office of the Vice President and the DepEd. So the first AOM is dated September 14, 2023. It's AOM number 2023-211. Okay. The assisting counsel can check this copy. Okay. Anyway, I can dispense with that. The second AOM is October 3, 2023. Now, I will direct you to the last page. It says here RCW, JMQ, GAC, RRS, NBP. So, RCW is Roderick C. Wamil, correct?
Opo, tama po.
Okay. Who is JMQ?
Dati pong staff namin sa ICFAO.
GAC?
Division Chief po ng ICFAO.
If you can state her name or his name.
Si Attorney Gloria A. Camora.
Okay, this is Gloria A. Camora. RRS?
Dati din pong DC sa ICFAO pero retired na po siya.
All right. NBP is the signatory.
Opo, si Ascom Nilda Plaras.
Okay. So, we will proceed to the third AOM for the OVP that is dated February 1, 2024. So, I will direct you to the routing list. Do you agree that this is a routing list?
Sila po yung nag-review, nag-evaluate, nag-review ng documents.
Yeah, I was about to ask you that question. Thank you for confirming. Now, it's RCW, Roderick C. Wamil again,
Opo.
JMQ, RRS, NBP.
Opo, tama.
All right. So, let's go to the AOM for the OVP dated August 8, 2024. On the last page, the routing list, it's RCW, GAC, RRS, NBP. But this is August 8, 2024.
Opo, tama.
Wala na si Roderick Wamil dito sa ICFAO.
Wala na po
Correct?
siya pero dyan po kasi siya yung nag-draft po ng AOM.
Siya yung nag-draft nito. So meaning, when he drafted this, he left this doon sa records ba or saan?
Yan po kasi may draft na siya, nasa Division Chief na po.
Nasa Division Chief. So, from February to August, so ilang months yun? February, March, April, May, June, July, August, after 6 months, dun lang na-release yung AOM, nung wala na si Wamil. Tama?
Opo, kasi po, yung...
Sorry, just answer my question, Celine.
Can you please repeat the question?
So, from February 2024, nung umalis na si Mr. Wamil, 'di ba? Iniwan niya 'to sa records nasa division chief na. So, na-release ito.
Your Honor.
Your Honor, preparatory nga. Sabi nga niya, i-repeat ko daw ho.
She's,
So, inuulit
she's
ho.
laying the basis for a question, Counsel.
So,
Attorney Christine, kindly
yes
finish your
po.
question.
So, after 6 months, doon lang na-release yung AOM.
Dahil po dumaan pa ito sa
Yeah,
review
sa
po.
review. Hindi ka kasali dito sa grupo na nag-review, nag-draft. Wala kang participation dito.
Na-review ko po yan nung nag-evaluate na po ako ng mga
Eto.
responses dun sa, binasa ko din po yan nung nag-evaluate ako ng responses sa notice of suspension.
So in short, nakita mo lang to after it has been issued by the COA ICFAO. Tama?
Opo, kasi yun yung na naging basis ko ng evaluation.
Sige, okay. Next is the audit observation memorandum for the DepEd. Wait lang. Your Honor, can I just confirm my counsel? So, let's go to the DepEd, ano? Sige, dun din tayo sa routing list, no? February 1, 2024, nandito pa si Roderick Wamil kasi RCW, JMQ, RRS, NBP.
Opo, tama.
Alright. Let's go to August 8, AOM. RCW, GAC, RRS, NBP. Wala na si RCW pero nasa division head.
Opo, pareho po nung sa OBP.
At saka na-review mo lang to nung na-issue na ng division head ng ICFAO.
Opo, nung mag-i-evaluate na po
Okay,
ako ng
sige. Salamat,
response.
Celine.
Your Honor, may we just note for the record that the documents presented to this witness were defense exhibits.
That has been noted,
Noted.
Your Honor. Okay, so punta naman ho tayo dun sa responses ng Vice President, no? Nag-submit ho sila ng letter dated April 19, 2024. Okay. At part ho nung letter no, nag-submit ho sila ng protective intelligence reports. Naalala niyo po yun?
Opo, attachment po yun dun sa response nila.
Okay. So, David? Hello. Hello. May request, David, to please flash. Chat muna yan, ha?
Who is David?
Our assisting counsel. Your Honor, David po pangalan niya para pwede niyo siya i-direct kung nagkakamali ho siya, kung hindi yung naaayon yung fina-flash niya.
Thank you for that, Counsel.
Okay. Sige, punta tayo dito
Can we
sa...
also, Your Honor, call our assistant counsel, Your Honor, Attorney
Of course,
J. De La Cruz.
He may approach.
So, etong exhibit na to, again, we'll use our exhibit counsel. Etong exhibit na to ay minarkahan po as D-1 or -1-115-OVP-C. Okay. So, eto po, eto. So, kasama ho dun sa submission ng Office of the Vice President is a certification dated April 4, 2024. Tama ho?
Opo, kasama po
Eto-
yun sa response.
Okay, salamat, Celine. Ito ay inisyo ni Raymond Dante P. Latchika.
Opo, tama.
Okay. So, sinasabi ho dito sa first paragraph, this is to certify that the confidential activities such as surveillance and information gathering were performed in 127 areas during the first quarter of CY 2023 and 111 areas during the second quarter of 2023, which enabled the team to prevent untoward incidents from transpiring during the engagements of the Vice President and the implementation of the programs of the Office of the Vice President, including the establishment of 3 new satellite offices, Isabela, in Cagayan Valley, Bicol, and BARM, and the implementation of OVP Libreng Sakay. Do you see that, Celine?
Yes po.
Okay, salamat. Pero sinabi nyo sa findings nyo na it doesn't pass the proof of success of the intelligence activities, correct?
Yes po,
Okay.
under 4.8.5,
Okay,
hindi po siya
sige.
sufficient.
So, kasali ho diyan sa letter na yan are what we call as Protective Intelligence Operations Report for the engagements of Vice President Sara Z. Duterte. Nakita niyo ho ba yon?
Opo, tama po.
Okay. So, sa bawat quarter na yon, may summary of intelligence work. Nabasa niyo ho ba yon?
Yung summary po nung...
Ang tanong ko, nabasa niyo ba bawat quarter yung summary of intelligence work?
yung kwan po, narrative po nung ano yung activity, date,
Okay.
location,
Okay.
yung timeline po.
Sige po.
Nakalagay po sa PIOR.
So, I'll take that answer, no? So,
Your Honor, please. Never mind, Your Honor.
I'm
She
showing
might
you
not take
this
my answer, Your Honor.
I am showing you this document, no? This is marked as our Exhibit D-1-115-OVP-C, Your Honor. With the caption, Protective Intelligence Operations Report for the engagements of Vice President Sara Z. Duterte, first quarter CY 2023. Now, punta ho tayo sa item number 4. Okay, number 2 muna tayo sa scope. No? You can read it with me. This report pertains to the narrative of events and accomplishments of VPSPG in terms of protective intelligence. Do you confirm that? Protective intelligence operations.
Opo, tama
Okay.
po.
During the engagements of Vice President Sara Z. Duterte for the first quarter of CY 2023. Do you confirm that?
Opo, tama.
All right. Number 4, punta tayo sa number 4. Item 4, you can read it with me. The protective intelligence activities carried out in support of the Vice Presidential Security and Protection Group's protective security operations for the places of engagement of the Vice President Sara Z. Duterte or Vice President Sara Duterte from January 1 to March 31, 2023 are listed below. So nakita niyo yan. Sakto yung basa ko ng narrative.
Opo, nakalagay po yung engagement.
Okay, salamat. No? Pero nakalagay ho dito in support of the Presidential Security and Protection Group's protective security operations.
Based po sa document.
Alright, sige. Letter A, nakalagay dito ika 106 na taong pagkakasarinlan ng Bustos Minasa Festival Ceremony Opening. So nakalagay date covered January 2 to January 10, 2023. Location, BMA Park, Poblacion, Bustos, Bulacan. Number 3, probable threats, NPA and criminalities. So number 4, detailed intel collection team, ICT. Nakita niyo ba yan?
Opo, based po sa document.
Okay, salamat po. Nakalagay ho sa timeline of activities na to, may nakalagay yung table, no? Tingnan lang natin isa-isa, no? Kung ito ba talaga ay intelligence work o hindi, no? So, etong number 5, tingnan ho natin yung item number 5. Liaising with intel operatives and respective informants of the PNP for the data information gathering needed for the threat assessment on criminalities in the municipality of Bustos and its neighboring communities. Ano yan? Intelligence work ho yan? Or ano lang ng admin work lang ng Office of the Vice President?
Ang pagkakaintindi ko po dyan, yan yung naging part ng ano yung activities, yung sa...
Hindi, tatanungin kita, based on how it appears, ano ho yan? Liaising with intel operatives, ano ho yan? Normal lang ho yan sa Office of the Vice President na mag-liaise with intel operatives? Or part ho ba yan ng intelligence work? Sa tingin nyo lang ho.
Papasok po siya sa intelligence gathering.
Okay, salamat po. Number 7, intelligence fusion for the threat assessment and situation update. Ano ho yan? Papasok ho yan sa intelligence or normal work lang yan ng OVP?
Sa intelligence.
Salamat po. Okay, ito. Dito tayo sa actual operations, no? Profiling of participants who will be attending the event provided by organizers. Part 2 ba yan ng normal na function ng OVP? Or papasok ko siya sa intelligence work?
Sa intelligence work po.
Okay, salamat po. Deployment of intel operatives and informants along routes, primary and alternate, from the landing zone to the venue. Is that an OVP admin work or intelligence-related ho yan?
Kasama po yan sa intelligence-related activities.
Okay, salamat po. Okay, gusto ko man hong isa-isahin ito, Your Honor, no? Pero I think we are constrained by time. But the court can peruse the documents for its
We have all
information.
the time, Mr. Witness.
Gusto mo, attorney?
Go
Na,
ahead.
baka magutom na
Once it
tayo.
is formally offered, that's when
Yeah.
we will be able to peruse it,
So,
Counsel.
okay. So, ito yung first quarter pa lang ho ito, Miss Celine, no? Let's go to the second quarter. Okay. So, punta ho tayo sa second quarter ng 2023. Okay. It is covered by the same letter of Mr. Lachica. Okay. So, punta ho tayo dito sa title, no? By the way, Your Honor, this is marked as our Exhibit D-1-115 OVP-M. Okay, so ang title ho nito ay Protective Intelligence Operations Report for the Engagements of Vice President Sara Z. Duterte, second quarter 2023. Now, punta ho tayo sa scope. Basahin ho natin, Ms. Celine, no? This report, number 2, item 2, this report pertains to the narrative of events and accomplishments of VP-SPG in terms of protective intelligence operations during the engagements of Vice President Sara Z. Duterte for the second quarter of 2023. Tama ho ba yung binasa ko?
Opo, tama po.
Okay, salamat po. Narrative, number 4, the protective intelligence activities carried out in support of the Vice Presidential Security and Protection Group's protective security operations for the places of engagements of the Vice President Sara Duterte from April 1 to June 30 2023 are listed below. Sige ho. Letter A, puntahan ho natin yung letter A, no? Yung caption ho niya, National Economic and Development Authority Social Development Committee, Cabinet level meeting. Do you see that?
Opo, tama
Okay. So yung date covered po niya ay April 2 to 5, 2023. Tama ho ba?
Opo.
Okay. Location ho niya ay Astoria Plaza Hotel, 15J, Escriva Drive, Ortigas Business District, Pasig City, Metro Manila. Tama ho?
Opo, tama po.
Okay, thank you. Nakalagay ho ang possible threats. Letter A, cost-oriented groups, open-close parentheses, NDF. And letter B, criminal groups. Nakita nyo ho ba yan?
Opo.
Okay. Number 4, Detailed Intel Collection Team, ICT. Tama po?
Opo, tama po.
So number 5, nakalagay na dito yung timeline of activities. No, as shown below, the timeline of activities for the engagement of the Vice President. Now, punta ho tayo sa number 3. Okay. Liaising with Intel operatives and respective informants of the PNP for the data information gathering needed for the threat assessment on criminals in Pasig City and its neighboring communities. Ano ho ba yan? Administrative work lang ho ba yan ng OVP or part ho ba yan ng Intel work? Tingin niyo ho.
Intel work po.
Okay. Number 6, intelligence fusion for the threat assessment and situation update. Intelligence work or normal lang yan na part ng OVP? Admin work?
Intelligence work po.
Okay, salamat po. Okay. Eto, number 8, ocular inspection, casing and surveillance of the venue. Ano ba yan? Part lang yan ng OVP admin work or intelligence work po yan? Sa tingin niyo po?
Intelligence work po.
Okay, salamat po. Number 12, final briefing to Intel operatives and informants. Part 2 ba yan ng okay. Final briefing to Intel operatives and informants, is that part of the confidential operations of the VP, OVP, or normal work lang yan ng OVP?
Papasok po siya as confidential work.
Okay, confidential work, no? So, actual operations, ito, number 14. Okay, number 14 tayo. Number 13 muna. Ito, interesting. Profiling and security tagging of participants who will be attending the event. Part 2 ba ng confidential activity yan or normal lang yan na part ng OVP? Admin work. Number 12 po.
Kasama po sa parang papasok siya sa surveillance.
Okay, surveillance, no? Number 14, okay, deployment of Intel operatives and informants along routes, primary and alternate from the PNP and MMDA. Part 2 ba yan ng surveillance activities or normal lang yan sa OVP?
Part po ng surveillance activities.
Okay, salamat po. Number 16, provided intelligence coverage prior to the arrival, actual, and departure of the Vice President.
Part 2 ba yan ng surveillance or normal lang yan sa OVP?
Surveillance po.
Okay, salamat. May nakalagay dito na post-operations, no? Okay, number 18. Continuous collaboration with the Intel Operatives of Pasig City Police Office. Surveillance po ba yan or normal lang na admin work yan ng Office of the Vice President?
Surveillance po.
Okay, salamat po. Sige. No. Meron pa tayong ibang nakalista ho dito which the Honorable Court can also peruse. Okay. So, punta ho tayo sa third quarter. Another letter to certification. Okay. Punta ko tayo sa third quarter. Covered ho to ng certification pa ho ni Mr. Lachica ho, no? Na dated April 6, 2024.
Yung sa third quarter po, September 30, 2023.
Yes, pero I mean, covered pa yun ng submission kasi nakalagay naman dito. Wait, excuse me. Excuse me lang, Your Honor. I will confirm with my counsel. Okay, ayun na. So, may certification dito na sinabit si Mr. Dante Lachica dated September 30, 2023. Nakalagay ho dito, babasahin ko ho, si Lynn, okay lang?
Opo.
Sige, sabay tayo. Ano? This is to certify Silene pala, sorry po. This is to certify that confidential activities such as surveillance and information gathering were performed in 122 areas during the third quarter of CY 2023, which enabled the team to prevent untoward incidents from transpiring during the engagements of the Vice President and in the implementation of the programs of the Office of the Vice President, including the establishment of 3 new satellite offices, Isabela in Cagayan, Valley, Bicol, and Barm, and the implementation of the OVP Libreng Sakay Program. Tama ho ba yung binabasa ko?
Opo.
Okay, so ito ho yung naging support niya, proof of success of the information gathering na sinabit ni Office of the Vice President, tama ho?
Opo, response po nila sa AOM for the third
Salamat
quarter.
po. Your Honor, this has been marked as Exhibit D-1-116-OVP-B for the Court's information. Now, may naka-attach ho dito na PIOR, no? Yun yung tawag natin doon, no? Protective Intelligence Operations Report for the engagements of Vice President Sara Z. Duterte for the third quarter of 2023. Okay, nakikita niyo ho ba yan?
Opo.
Your Honor, this has been marked as Exhibit D-1-116-OVP-C for the respondent. Now, tingnan ho natin yung scope again, Silene. No? This report pertains to the narrative of events and accomplishments of the VPSPG in terms of protective intelligence operations during the engagement of the Vice President Sara Z. Duterte for the third quarter, CY 2023. Do you see that?
Opo.
Okay, salamat. Number 4, narrative. The protective intelligence activities carried out in support of the Vice Presidential Security and Protection Group's protective security operations for the places of engagements of the Vice President Sara Duterte from July 1 to September 30, 2023 are listed below. Tama ba yung binabasa ko?
Opo, tama po.
Okay, thank you. So letter A, may nakalagay ho doon, DPWH inauguration and opening of Davao City Coastal Bypass Project, Segment A. Date covered, June 28 to July 1, 2023. Location, Davao City, Coastal Road, Times Beach, Ecoland, Davao City. Sakto? Sakto pa yung binabasa ko?
Opo, tama.
Okay, thank you. Probable threats, letter A, cause-oriented groups, open close parenthesis, NDF, and letter B, criminal groups. Tama po?
Opo, tama.
Okay, thank you. Number 4, Detailed Intel Collection Team, ICT. ICT4, tama po?
Opo.
Okay, number 5, timeline of activities. No? As shown below, the timeline of activities of the Vice President are as follows. So, tingnan natin yung number 4 kung magpo-fall po yan sa confidential or surveillance work. No? Number 4, liaising with Intel operatives and respective informants of the PNP and AFP for the data information gathering needed for the threat assessment on criminalities in Davao City and neighboring areas. Does that fall under confidential activity or normal lang yan sa administrative work or normal administrative work lang yan ng OVP?
Papasok po siya sa surveillance.
Okay, salamat. Number 5 po, no? Intel fusion with for the threat assessment and situation update. Papasok po siya sa surveillance.
Opo.
Okay, salamat po. Ito hong number 11, no? Final briefing to Intel operatives and informants. Ano ba to? Normal lang to na trabaho ng OVP or part ito ng surveillance or confidential work?
Papasok po siya sa surveillance activity.
Alright. Then, baba tayo dito sa actual operations, no? Itong profiling and security tagging of the participants, item number 12, who will be attending the event. Papasok po ba na normal admin work lang yan ng OVP or papasok po siya as confidential work or surveillance?
Papasok po siya dun sa surveillance.
Okay, salamat. Number 13, deployment of Intel operatives and informants along routes, primary and alternate from the PNP. Surveillance or normal work lang yan ng OVP?
Papasok po siya sa surveillance.
Okay. Number 14, provided Intel coverage prior to the arrival, actual and departure of the Vice President. Surveillance or normal lang yan? Part lang yan ng admin work ng OVP?
Papasok po siya sa surveillance.
Okay. So, post-operation. Number 16, continuous collaboration with the Intel operatives of Davao City Police Office and TF Davao. Pasok po siya sa admin work or surveillance or confidential work?
Sa surveillance.
Okay. So, nakikita mo dito lahat, Miss Celine, no? Pati na yung doon sa report, nakita mo naman na isa-isa yon, lahat may mga dates at lugar. Tama po?
Opo, nakalagay po yung narratives,
okay.
yung timeline.
So, for the first and second and third quarters of 2023, no? Do you confirm that? Nakalagay naman yan lahat. May dates, may activity, at may lugar. Tama ho?
Opo, based po sa PIOR reports na submitted, may
Okay.
mga details po na ganun.
Salamat. So, lahat ng mga submissions ng OVP for the first to third quarter, kasama itong Protective Intelligence Operations Report. Meaning, sa first quarter, yung pinakita ko nga, may sinubmit kanina, di ba?
Kasama po doon sa response nila sa AOM attachment
Okay,
po.
so kasama din doon sa response nila yung second quarter na Protective Intelligence Report.
Kasama din po doon sa
Okay.
attachment.
As well as the third quarter, which is itong binasa nyo ho.
Opo, kasama din po yan.
Okay. But, despite of all of this, no, sinabi mo, hindi, disallowed pa rin yan kasi walang evidence of success eh. No? Walang evidence of success eh, no? Wait lang.
Kindly turn on the mic for the prosecutor.
Your Honor, the counsel is being argumentative with the
No,
witness.
I'm
We
just
object.
I'm asking a question. Sabi ko,
What is the question again?
ang
Madam
question ko, despite of all of those reports, no, dinisallow nyo pa rin yung payment of rewards. Kasi sabi ninyo, no proof of success. Di ba ho?
Argumentative, Your Honor.
Hindi,
That is
sinabi-
the finding of this witness.
Kaya nga sinasabi ko attorney, kaya nga kino-confirm ko ho.
Counsel, if you please. Witness may answer. Objection is overruled. Witness said that she indeed disallowed and or gave AOMs because there was no proof of success. I even remember her saying, wala naman daw nahuli. So please answer, Celine.
Yes po, kasama po yun sa notice of disallowance ko na na-issue noong March 31, 2026. Hindi po sufficient yung PIOR and the certification na evidence na nagpapakita ng success ng information gathering.
Okay, I get that. But are you aware that one of the purposes of intelligence work is crime prevention?
Your Honor, please, may we know where this is leading? Because we are not talking about intelligence funds. We're talking about
Confidential funds. So I convert my
Confidential funds.
question, Your Honor.
Counsel, kindly
Yes.
wait for Attorney Capunan to finish with her objection.
Are you referring to
Counsel,
I will
intelligence
rephrase
funds
my
or
question. I will
confidential
rephrase my
funds?
question.
Counsels, please address the court, not
Your
each
Honor,
other.
please.
Your Honor, please.
Your Honor, please, may I object to this line of questioning? In fact, I have not stood up because all the questions referred to intelligence funds, Your Honor, when the topic today is confidential funds. And I would like to put that on record, Your Honor, especially this last question, where she
Your Honor.
specifically refers to conclusions as to use of intelligence funds.
The objection is noted, and counsel has already stated that she will rephrase. Kindly rephrase, Attorney Christine.
All right. So, ang tanong ko kanina, no? Sabi nyo nga, no? Dinisallow nyo yung rewards kasi nga walang evidence of success ng information gathering. Tama ho?
Opo.
Okay. Kasi nga ho, gusto nyo ho ng proof na may nahuli. Sinabi nyo yan kahapon sa testimony nyo.
Yes po, kasi naipakita po doon yung probable threat. So, ang hinihanap na proof of success is kung may na-apprehend po.
Okay, apprehended. So, apprehensions, no? So, ang tanong ko sa iyo ngayon, alam niyo ho ba, no? Do you know that one of the purposes of a confidential activity or a surveillance is crime prevention? Alam niyo ba 'yon?
Ang sa confidential...
Hindi, alam niyo ho ba 'yon? Tanong ko lang ho, alam niyo ho ba na isa sa mga purposes ng surveillance or ng confidential work ay crime prevention? Alam niyo ba 'yon?
Kasama po ang crime prevention pero depende rin po
Hindi,
ito sa
just
mandate,
answer my question,
mandate ng
yes or
agency.
no.
Attorney Celine,
Do you agree? Yeah.
Kasama po ba yon o hindi?
Yung sa crime prevention po, kasama po yun sa...
Wait,
pero
let her
depende
answer.
pa din po ito sa mandate po ng
Ang ganda
agency.
lang, kasama po ba siya sa surveillance at paggamit ng confidential fund, crime prevention? Yes or no?
Opo, kasama po.
Okay, salamat, Celine. Okay. In fact, meron tayong tatlong klase ng surveillance work. Alam niyo ba 'yon, Celine? May background ho kayo sa mga surveillance, intelligence work, confidential work.
Based lang po sa joint circular na for surveillance activities yung confidential fund.
So actually, yung surveillance do you agree with me, may tatlong klase ho yan. Una, preventive surveillance. Alam niyo ba 'yon?
No basis, Your Honor. No basis
Hindi,
for
tinatanong
this
ko lang ho
question.
kung alam niyo ho ba.
Your Honor, the surveillance work that this
Your Honor-
witness testified to is as defined in the circular, Your
So,
Honor.
what is surveillance work as defined in the circular?
Ito po yung yung kasing, di ba po yung confidential expenses is used by agencies for surveillance and surveillance activities na makakatulong po na maisagawa ang mandate ng isang
Okay,
agency.
sige. Sige, nandun na tayo sa maisagawa yung mandate nila. So, tanong ko sa'yo, did the circular limit that to crime prevention? Kasi nga sabi mo, kailangan to apprehension. Kasi nga sabi mo, dapat may mahuli. Sinabi ho ba yan sa JC na dapat may mahuli?
Ang nakalagay po kasi sa JC under 4.8.5
Hindi,
is proof of success.
Your Honor, please.
Let the witness answer, Your
Your
Honor.
Honor, please,
Mr.
can the-
Presiding Officer, can the counsel be instructed not to stop the witness at mid-sentence, Your Honor?
Your Honor, please, can the witness be directed? You just answer with yes or no. The counsel has her time to ask clarificatory questions later
Your Honor,
during
not all
redirect, Your
questions.
Honor.
Not all questions can be answered by yes
I am
or
on
no.
cross, Your Honor, please.
Counsels.
Never mind if you're on cross. There are limits to cross-examination.
Counsels-
Misleading questions are not allowed
They
on
are
cross.
allowed.
Councils,
I don't think I need to lecture
please,
you that.
councils, let's not allow the generational or seeming generational divide increase the tension in the courtroom. Let's keep it a notch lower.
Your Honor, please, I am preventing myself from giving her a spanking, Your Honor. That is what I would
Your
have
Honor,
done
please.
in
Again,
the
counsels.
generational divide, Your Honor.
Again,
Your Honor,
councils, you are all members of the bar and
Yes,
you're
Your Honor.
all counsels
I
for the
submit,
parties.
submit.
And we will be treating and looking at each one equally. At Miss
I will-
Miss Eileen.
Yes, Your Honor,
it's also-
I promise to henceforth behave.
Your
Thank
Honor,
you.
can I please respond quickly lang, no? I have high respect for Attorney Kapunan. In fact, she's one of
You
my
can end there,
idols.
counsel.
Let's end here. Let's end here.
You can end there.
This
with
might
the high
sound like
respect.
it might sound like a eulogy, Your Honor. I'm still very much alive.
Your Honor, kahapon niya, hindi ko nga siya kinukulit, di ba? Kahit may mga questions na doon na leading, hindi naman allowed yun sa direct examination eh. I respected her.
You can end there, counsel, if
Yeah,
you respect her. Thank you.
Thank you po.
Miss Eileen, ayon sa tanong ng counsel, simple lang po naman, nakalagay ba sa Joint Memorandum Circular 2015-01 na kailangan may mahuli para maging successful ang isang pagbigay ng reward or information?
Wala pong nakalagay. Ang nakalagay lang po, proof of success of information gathering and or surveillance
So,
activities.
interpretasyon niyo po yun na dapat may mahuli para maging successful?
I base po yon sa aking professional judgment and based on the evaluation po ng documents na ito is based po sa joint circular.
Pero hindi po yun nakalagay sa joint circular na maliwanag.
Hindi po. Nakalagay lang po proof of
Interpretasyon
success.
niyo na po yun.
Doon po sa pag-evaluate ko, yun po yung naging basis ko.
Okay.
Please proceed, Attorney Christine.
Salamat po. Okay, so sa tingin nyo, no, dahil gusto nyo dapat may huli, hindi part ng confidential activity yung crime prevention? Ganun ho ba? Hindi ho siya part nun?
Pwede pong pakiulit?
At hindi ho part yung crime prevention na walang nangyaring masama. Doon sa event na yun, hindi ho yun part ng confidential work or surveillance?
Hindi pa po siya sufficient as proof of success.
Hindi siya sufficient. So, dapat talaga may mangyari na krimen at may mahuli para po may proof of success tayo.
Kasi nga po, meron po yung for payment of information and payment of reward. So, yung payment of information, yun kasi yung nakakatulong dun sa...
Simple lang naman yung tanong ko, Celine, no? What if walang nangyari na masama dahil nga sa ginawang confidential work? At nag-certify ngayon sila, Chika, na walang nangyari na masama. There was no untoward incident. Ano yan?
Your
Is
Honor,
isn't that a proof of success or not?
What is the objection of counsel?
The question is speculative, Your Honor. This is not based on what ifs. This is based on facts and documents submitted, not on the what ifs of counsel for respondent.
It's not a what-if counsel because it was stated in the report that there was no untoward incident. Actually, that would have been one of the questions of the presiding officer as well later on. Attorney Silene, ibahin natin ang payment for reward at payment for information. Ang payment for reward, yun ang hinahanapan mo ng success.
Opo, tama po.
Yung payment of information, hindi mo hinahanapan ng success yun.
Hindi po.
Tama po ba?
Opo, tama po.
So yung reward, kaya yung reward ang dinisallow at yung information, hindi mo dinisallow yung bayad na yun, di ba?
Hindi po na-disallow yung purchase of information.
So ang dinisallow mo lang ay yung payment of reward, for rewards rather.
Opo, tama
At yun
po.
ang hinahanapan mo ng success, hindi yung information.
Hindi po.
Magkaiba yun.
Opo, magkaiba po yun.
Okay. You may proceed, counsel.
Okay. So, doon sa payment of success, no, bilang requirement nyo na may dapat nahuli, no? So, ibig sabihin ho ba nun, dapat may mangyaring masama para may mahuli?
Kasi po, gaya nga po nung kaninang dinidifferentiate ko.
Sagutin nyo lang ho yung tanong ko. Simple lang naman yun, di ba? Kailangan may mahuli. So, ano ho ba yun? Dapat may mangyari hong masama para may mahuli?
Yun mo, di ba po ang nakalagay doon sa probable threats is may NPA. Ang hinahanap ko po kasing proof of success doon, yun nga po, kung may nahuli ba. Kasi yung pagkakaroon ng untoward incidents, pwede po yun kasing mag-fall sa purchase of information. Dahil sa purchase of information, nagkaroon ng, there were no untoward incidents. Yun po kasi yung parang pagkakaiba nila sa payment of rewards.
Okay, so yun yung interpretasyon mo. No? So, bawal magbayad ng reward dahil nagkaroon ng tip na may information na may mga taong may gagawin na masama. Your Honor, I'm on cross-examination. Tapos, napigilan natin kasi nga hindi tayo pumunta sa lugar na yon, hindi tayo nag-conduct ng event sa petsa na yon based on confidential information. So, walang untoward incident. So, bawal bayaran ng reward yung tao na nagbigay ng information.
Are you done with the question? Don't answer.
I think right now she is.
I make an objection, Your Honor.
Yes, what's your objection, Counsel?
Your Honor, the counsel is now asking a misleading question. She is mixing payment of rewards and payment for information. Your Honor, the list required by this witness is for payment of rewards. Precisely, payment of information is not disallowed. Now, counsel is saying payment of information is may we ask her to reform? Is she referring to payment of rewards or payment for information? Because the information here is not disallowed.
Again,
It's not disallowed in the AOMs, Your Honor.
Again, counsels, kindly address
Your
the
Honor,
court or the presiding officer and not talk to each other directly. Ms. Eileen, to abbreviate and save on the court's time, Ms. Eileen, kapag kami nagbigay ng impormasyon, naghahanap ng threat, baka may threat sa Vice President, may nagbigay ng impormasyon, walang threat. Ligtas ang Vice President pag nagpunta siya dyan. Hindi magka-classify yon na pwedeng bigyan ng reward at success. Hindi naman kailangan, di ba? Sanay tayo sa reward na nakatakip yung mukha, di ba? Tinuro kung saan nagtatago yung akusado, tinuro kung saan nagtatago kung sino man. Di yun, reward. Pero wala bang reward kapag sinabing, okay, magpunta dyan, walang problema, wala kayong kailangan alalahanin. Is that information or can that also be reward?
Magpo-fall po siya sa information.
So, kailan lang magiging reward yun kapag may naturo?
Opo, kasi yun yung proof of success.
Tuloy niyo po.
Yun yung proof of success ng information na ibigay kasi may na-apprehend po or yun po, ganun po.
Yun, ulitin ko po yan ang interpretasyon nyo, pero wala po yan sa Joint Memorandum Circular.
Opo, based po sa, yun po lang yung hinihingi under item 4.8.5.b.
Ngayon, saan nyo ba binase ang interpretasyon nyo yan? Yan ba yung ginawa ng lahat ng mga nauna sa inyo sa pwestong yan? Kinopya nyo lang? Or sarili nyo po yan at ngayon lang ginawa yan?
Doon po sa mga ibang na-audit ko, ang ina-attach po talaga nila is yung payment of rewards na may mga nahuli po.
So lahat ng in-audit nyo nung nakaraan, for consistency's sake, merong nahuli o na-apprehend?
May ganun pong mga naka-attach na mga dokumento.
At tulad dun sa iba, kapag walang nahuli o na-apprehend sa reward, ini-AOM o dinidisala o sinususpend nyo?
Hinahanapan po namin ng proof of success, opo.
Na may nahuli nga?
Opo.
To prove consistency on your part. But do you have any knowledge na yung mga predecessor mo, yan din yung standard na ginamit?
Pare-pareho po kami na based sa joint circular po ang aming basis ng audit.
Pero wala nga dun eh. So interpretasyon mo, yan at yan yung interpretasyon din ng mga nauna sa'yo sa pagkakaalam mo?
Sa akin po, yun po yung naging
Sa'yo lang?
interpretation. Opo.
Okay. You may proceed, Attorney
Salamat
Christine.
po, Your Honor. I will go back to the podium.
After nung na-evaluate niyo po yung mga responses po, no, ng OVP, and including the DepEd, of course, no, nag-issue po kayo, okay, sa OVP muna tayo, nag-issue po kayo ng notice of suspension. We're referring to the Office of the Vice President.
Opo, yung sa fourth quarter. Ang nag-issue pa po nun is si Mr.
Hindi, ang tanong ko for the year 2023, first to third quarter, may notice of suspension mo ba na na-issue?
Wala po.
Okay. Okay, punta tayo dun sa fourth quarter ng 2022. Sige, dun muna tayo. Balik tayo sa... Kasi hindi naman kayo yung nag-issue ng AOM dun sa fourth quarter po, di ba po? Nag 2022?
Hindi po.
Oo, sige. So, dun na tayo sa notice of suspension kasi naabutan nyo na ho yun, di ba po?
Opo, tama po.
Okay. So, dun sa fourth quarter ng 2022, no? Nag-issue kayo ng notice of suspension dated December 13, 2023. Tama po ba?
Opo, tama po.
Okay. Pero sa 2023 wala kayong na-issue na notice of suspension.
Opo, tama po.
Okay. I'm going to direct you to the JC, section 3.2. Ralph, kindly give her a copy of the JC. 3.2, notice of suspension. Nakita nyo na ho? 3.2, nakita nyo ho?
3.20
Okay.
po.
So, sinasabi ho dyan, refers to a written notification to the head of agency and or accountant informing of the temporary disallowance in audit of CE. CE po ay confidential expenses.
Opo, tama po.
And or IE, which appear illegal, improper, irregular, unless satisfactorily explained or justified by the responsible officers or until requirements on matters raised in the course of audit are complied with. Tama po?
Opo, tama po.
Pero in the case of the first and to third quarters, wala ho kayong in-issue na notice of suspension. Tama ho?
Wala pong notice of suspension.
Therefore, the Vice President, Office of the Vice President, was not able to comment on any supposed finding of the COA. Walang opportunity ho na magbigay ng comment yung Office of the Vice President bago pa ho ma-issue yung notice of disallowance.
Dumiretso po ito sa notice of disallowance.
Mamaya ho, tatanungin ho kita. Doon muna tayo sa notice of suspension. So walang naibigay na oportunidad para mag-comment ang Office of the Vice President to any notice of suspension na hindi naman na-serve.
Wala pong notice of suspension na na-issue.
Thank you. Salamat po. Now, sinabi mo rin kahapon na you dispense with the notice of suspension because there was a supposed violation of 6.1.1 of the JC.
Yes
Tama
po,
ho?
tama po.
Okay. Nasa JC ho ba, no, joint circular, na pag may violation ng 6.1.1, didiretso ho kayo sa notice of disallowance?
Under po kasi sa 3.19, nakalagay po doon na yung disallowance is written notification to the head of agency and or accountant informing and requiring the persons liable to restitute the amount kasi nga po nakalagay dito as a result of illegal, irregular, and improper disbursement or expenditure of such funds.
So, naiintindihan po kita, Celine, no? Ang tanong ko ho, nasa joint circular ba ho, na pag may violation ng 6.1.1, ay didiretso ho kayo sa notice of disallowance. Nasa JC ho yan?
Kasi nga po, yung...
sagutin nyo lang ho yung tanong ko, nandun ho ba o wala?
Pwede pong pakiulit yung tanong.
Sige. Nasa joint circular ho ba na pag may violation ng 6.1.1, dediretso na kayo sa notice of disallowance. Hindi nyo na kailangan mag-issue ng notice of suspension.
Opo, kasi irregular na po yung...
Hindi po. Ito po, yung tinatanong ko po ay mismong yung provision na yun, sinasabi ho ba niya, you can directly issue notice of disallowance without...
Your Honor, this is asked and answered.
Asked and answered. That is your answer, Counsel. It's not in the memorandum circular, Silene, right?
Meron po, ang notice of disallowance po kasi ini-issue siya pag irregular na po yung paggamit nung pondo po.
Tama po kayo, pero walang nakalagay na pwede kang dumiretso doon kapag kung ano man.
Opo, basta nakalagay lang po na ini-issue ang ND pag irregular.
Kung sa pananaw mo, irregular na.
Opo.
You may proceed, Counsel.
Okay. Salamat po, Your Honor. Now, punta tayo dun sa first and second notices of disallowance. No? I will refer to the first ND. I refer to the first ND. When I say first ND, that refers to the fourth quarter of 2022. No? So yung second ND naman, that refers to the first to third quarter of 2023. Okay? Para hindi tayo malito. And for the guidance of the Honorable Court. Now, ang sinabi ho yung basis po sa audit ng ICFA, sa audit nyo po, ng confidential funds ng Vice President at ng DepEd ay syempre yung joint circular ho, di ba po?
Opo.
Okay. So, pag may audit ho ng confidential funds, okay, do you agree with me na dalawa lang naman yung outcomes nun, di ba? Allowance or disallowance of a confidential expense, whether full or partial allowance or disallowance.
Yung disallowance po, pwedeng whole or in part.
Okay, so tama yon, no? Pwedeng dalawa yung magiging resulta niya, allowance or disallowance in full or in part. Okay. Now, and if a confidential expense is disallowed, no, it is because, in your own opinion, the agency did not fully comply with the documentary requirements of the joint circular.
Opo, hindi siya compliant with the joint circular.
Okay, sige, salamat to. And as someone who is familiar with the COA rules, ito po ay masasagot nyo bilang auditor at bilang familiar po kayo sa COA rules. Sa tingin nyo ba ang joint circular is a penal law?
Your Honor, please, Mr. Presiding Officer, we object to the question.
If she knows, overruled. If she knows, if she doesn't, she may
Penal
say
law,
so.
alam niyo ba yung penal law?
Hindi po.
Sige.
Hindi po.
I-define natin yung penal law ay yung batas na it is a law that defines a crime or a felony. Ganun po yung penal law. So sa tingin nyo ho, ito po bang joint circular, ito po ba ay isang batas na nag-define ng krimen?
Misleading,
At
Your
may,
Honor.
Your Honor, I'm on cross-examination, please.
Witness is not competent.
Even if you're on cross, misleading is not allowed.
Not for that ground, counsel. Witness would not be competent to answer that. She's not a lawyer nor a member of the bar, an accountant, and is part of ICFAO. Proceed to your next point, counsel.
Thank you,
please.
Your Honor.
Okay, thank you po, Your Honor. Sige, I will ask her na lang based on her personal knowledge. Now, based ho sa circular, meron ho bang provision doon na kulong? Pagkakakulong, meron ho ba?
Wala pong nakalagay sa circular.
Okay, may provision ho ba doon na fines, multa?
Document, Your Honor, document will speak for itself.
Let the
Objection.
witness answer. Overruled.
Pwede, Your Honor, pwede pong mag-refer dito
Sige,
sa...
sure. Oo, okay lang po.
Meron po dito sa item 8, yung administrative provisions, penal sanctions. Yun lang po yung masasabi ko na.
Okay, sige. Okay, okay, I'll take that, sir. Pero, sige, okay. Alam niyo, kayo po ay part ng COA, di ba po?
Opo, tama po.
Pamilyar ho kayo sa administrative law kasi nasa gobyerno naman ho kayo.
Anong specific? Hindi
Sige,
po gaka.
Okay, I will just dispense with that question, no? So, in short, yung joint circular sa pagkakaintindi nyo ay procedural rules, na procedure siya, kung paano ninyo ikakandak inyong audit of the confidential funds.
Yung joint circular po ang guidelines na ginagamit namin sa pag-audit po ng confidential and intelligence funds.
Yes, okay. I'll take that answer. Now, let's go to the first ND. Can it be flashed on the screen, please? Now, ND dated August 8, 2024. covering the fourth quarter of 2022. Okay. We will be giving the witness a copy of the ND. Okay, meron na pala, no? So in that ND, the amount of 73,287,000 was disallowed in audit out of 125 billion confidential expenses of the OVP for the fourth quarter of 2022. Tama po?
Opo, tama po.
Okay. At saka sa disallowance po nun, no, kung nakikita nyo sa screen at sa copy nyo, no, na ND, may 3 grounds po yon. Agree po kayo?
Opo,
Okay.
nandito po.
So, yung first ground ho natin ay non-submission of documents evidencing success of information gathering and or surveillance activities, okay, with disallowed amount of 69,787,000. Nakikita nyo ba yon?
Opo.
Okay. Yung pangalawa ho, charging payment for tables, chairs, and desktop computers and printers in the total amount of 3,500,000 to confidential fund without specifying that they were intended for confidential operations or activities undertaken by the OVP. Tama po?
Opo, tama po.
Okay, salamat. And letters number 3, non-submission of the revised accomplishment report to the Office of the President, Senate President, and Speaker of the House of Representatives. Tama ho?
Opo, tama po.
Okay. So, sinabi niyo kanina na itong fourth quarter na ito ng 2022, meron ho itong kalakip na notice of suspension. Tama po?
Opo.
Okay. So, can we flash the notice of suspension dated December 13, 2023? Okay. And this notice of suspension, nilabas ho siya, in-issue ho siya before ng issuance ng notice of disallowance. Tama po?
Opo, tama po.
Okay. So, can we go to item number 2? Miss Celine, can counsel give her a copy? Sige, you can peruse po, no, item number 2 of the notice of suspension. Okay, so item number 2, the DEPs likewise revealed that the OVP incurred the following expenses supported with acknowledgement receipts. Nakikita niyo po yan?
Opo.
Okay. So, nakalagay ho dyan, payment of reward, open close parenthesis, various goods, 34,857,000. Tama po?
Opo.
Okay. Payment of reward, open close parenthesis, medicines, 24,930,000. Tama po?
Opo.
Payment of purchase supplies, 11,813,000. Tama po?
Opo, tama po.
Payment of tables and chairs, 500,000.
Opo, tama.
Okay. Payment of desktop computers, 3 million.
Opo,
Sakto?
tama.
Okay. Next paragraph po, sinabi nyo dyan, no? Since the aforementioned expenses pertain to purchases, the same should be supported by either sales invoices or official receipts as evidence of payment of purchases from establishments/stores. Nakikita niyo po ba?
Opo.
Okay. Ngayon, nakikita niyo ba ho yung statement na yan dun sa ND? Nandun pa ho ba yan or tinanggal ho yan?
Yung wala na po ito sa ND.
Wala na ho yan sa ND. Okay. So, flash natin ulit yung ND para makita ho ng mga tao. No? So, yan. Okay. So, tinanggal nyo na, no? Let's go to the second ND. Okay, ito na yung first to third quarter ng 2023. Okay, pakibigay ho ng kopya yung ating witness. Okay, paki-flash ho ng second ND. Okay. The date is March 31, 2026. Okay? So, yung second ND naman ho yun ay nagdi-disallow ng 375 million na confidential expenses ng Office of the Vice President.
Opo, tama.
Okay. Punta ho tayo dun sa item number 1, no? Payment of rewards, totaling 62 million. Okay? So, kita nyo ho, 62 million.
Opo.
Okay, according to ICFAO, sabi nyo ho, the documents evidencing success of the surveillance activities submitted by the OVP did not comply with item 4.8.5b of the joint circular because the documents were not able to specify the particular accomplishments demonstrating success of the information gathering. Nakita nyo ho yun?
Opo.
Okay. So, tanong ho, no? Does the JC describe a particular format for this type of documents? May proforma ho ba kung paano ho isusulat yung accomplishments demonstrating success of the information gathering?
Ang nakalagay lang po dun sa joint circular is...
Hindi, ang tanong ko ay may template po ba yung JC?
Wala po.
Wala po. Okay. In fact, hindi ho siya part ng annexes po ng JC. Ano po? Wala pong template na ganon. Kung paano ho namin isusulat kung ano po yung mga success of information gathering na yon, yung mga detalye na yon. Wala hong ganon.
Your Honor, please ask and answer already.
Okay.
Move on, Counsel.
Yes po. So, sa JC, may nakikita ho ba kayong example? Paano isulat yon? Aside sa wala ho siya sa annexes, sinabi niyo ho kanina, may nilagay ho ba si JC doon na example na ganito dapat yung pagkasulat ninyo ng certification evidencing success of the information gathering? Ganito dapat yung pagkasulat. May ganun ho ba sa JC?
Ang nakalagay lang po is documents evidencing success.
Okay. Okay. Sige, I'll take that answer. So, in disallowing the OVP's documents evidencing success of its surveillance activities, of course, you merely relied on your personal opinion or probably your professional opinion, no? Kung ano sa tingin nyo ang compliant with item 4.8.5 of the JC, tama po?
Binase ko po ang evaluation ko based on the joint circular and
yes, and ikaw yung nag-audit. So basically, yun po ang inyong professional judgment. Ano ho?
And ito pong pag-audit kasi na to, dumadaan din po to sa review. So nare-review din po ito ng aking division chief hanggang makarating po sa head of ICFAO.
Yes. In short, lahat kayo ng auditors based din sa judgment ninyo, sa opinion ninyo na itong document na ito ay hindi naayon sa circular.
Ask and answer, Your Honor.
Not yet, Your Honor, because he said there were reviews that were undertaken. So, lahat kayo, kakasali yung mga superiors mo, no? Ito yung opinion ninyo, no? Na ito ay hindi naayon sa circular 4.8.5.
Your Honor, please. I object again. Counsel uses the word opinion, whereas this witness says professional judgment, Your Honor. They're two different things. Opinion is not professional judgment.
No, Your Honor.
Besides, counsels, please. Besides, witness already answered that is not only her personal judgment and or opinion, but also that of her superiors who reviewed.
Yes, Your Honor.
Her findings resulting in the notice of disallowance. You did not sign the notice of disallowance, correct, Celine?
Hindi po, pero meron po sa office namin yung second original copy, may countersign po kami. Pero ang ini-issue namin sa agency is yung may signed lang po ng aming...
So pataas, presumably, pag pinirmahan yan ultimately at iniso, nag-agree sila sa findings mo, yun din ang pananaw nila.
Opo.
You may proceed, counsel.
Okay. So, sinasabi nyo na yun po yung pananaw po ng inyong mga superiors at ng sarili mo din, no? Meron ho bang guidelines yung COA na nagsasabi na ganito dapat yung assessment ninyo pagdating ho dyan sa submission ng documents evidencing success of information gathering? May mga clarificatory issuances ba yung COA niyan?
We base po our audit sa joint circular.
Joint circular lang talaga. Okay. So, okay. Punta ho tayo dun sa item number 2, Miss Celine. Okay, item number 2, okay, the ND provides, no? Number 2, purchases of supplies and provisions of medical/food aid totaling 199 million presented in table 2 were supported only by acknowledgement receipts. Okay, nakikita niyo ho ba yan?
Opo.
So, eto hong table 2 na to nakalagay, ang total ho niya, purchase of supplies, 117 million, provisions of medical and food aid, 82 million, yung total ho niya, 199 million, tama ho?
Opo, tama.
And dinisallow niyo siya because acknowledgement receipts lang yung supporting documents.
Dahil nga po, we cannot opo.
Yun lang, ano nyo muna yung tanong ko po, no? Doon lang ho muna kayo sa sumagot, no? So, acknowledgement receipts lang, so disallowed, tama ho?
Yes po, because
mamaya na. May tatanungin ko din. No, wait for the question, Celine, no? Celine. So, sabi dun sa next paragraph, okay, may next paragraph po, tingnan nyo ho. Although the joint circular, nakita nyo ho yan?
Opo.
Although the joint circular does not prescribe specificity to the documentary evidence of payments to be submitted to substantiate the disbursements made from the CF, this office, pursuant to item 6.2.3.7 of the joint circular, may require other supporting documents that we deem necessary for the proper evaluation of liquidation documents submitted. Nakita niyo po yan?
Opo.
Okay. Yung next sentence, sinasabi ho, to ascertain the validity of such purchases of supplies and provision of medical and food aid, we deem it necessary that they be substantiated with appropriate documents such as official receipts or sales invoices. Sinabi po yan?
Opo.
Okay, so in short, mas gugustuhin nyo na meron talagang official receipts and invoices na nakalakip doon sa submission ng OVP.
To ascertain po na talagang naibili ito ng supplies and medical and food aid.
Okay, sige, thank you. Of course, the answer is clear, no? So, okay, no? Pero, if you can recall dun sa ND ng fourth quarter ninyo, noong 2022, pwede natin i-flash ulit. Tinanggal ho dun yung requirement ng official receipts and invoices. Tama ho ba? Do you recall that?
Kasi po yung...
Hindi, just answer my question.
Your Honor, please, can counsel for respondent show
yes,
the
it will
particular
be shown.
provision, Your Honor?
Kindly flash it on the screen.
So, doon sa fourth quarter ng 2022, no? Okay. Wala doon sa ending ninyo, tinanggal na ninyo yung requirement nyo for sales invoices and receipts. Diba?
Counsel, wala din sa screen, Counsel. Can you please confront
they are working on it.
Celine, do you remember? Can you answer? Can you answer, Celine?
Wala po siya doon. Pwede ko po bang i-clarify yung answer?
Let the opposing counsel seek that. But the question being asked for is kung nandun o wala. So wala na siya dun sa notice of disallowance.
Wala na po.
Pero nandun naman siya sa notice of suspension dati, no? Yung
Opo.
2020. Okay. So, okay. So, ngayon, Miss Celine or Celine, no, I understand, baka familiar na dito si opposing counsel. Alam niyo ba yung COA Circular number 92-385?
Opo. Ayun po ba yung pinakita kay... Yun po ba yung...
Sige,
pwede
papakita
pong
ko
pakita.
namin sa inyo. Sige,
Kindly show the witness.
Okay, hello.
Your Honor, please,
Eto,
before she asks the question, Your Honor, for everybody to refresh their memories, this particular circular was presented by Attorney Powa to Attorney Wamil. And we had manifested that this circular dated 1992 has been superseded, has been amended, has been revoked by the current joint circular of 5 government agencies, not only one, Your Honor.
I remember that manifestation, that it was impliedly repealed, although it was not specifically mentioned in the repealing clause of the JMC. Yes, witness
Yes,
may
sir. But
answer.
I have different questions. Okay, so pakibasa ho, no, with the indulgence of the opposing counsel, papabasa lang ho namin yung certain provisions, no, yung 4th paragraph po.
Your Honor, please, before
Yes,
this witness
Attorney Kapunan.
answers, Your Honor, may we know this line of questioning? Because this witness precisely is being presented with a document and required or directed to read provisions or paragraphs of a document that is no longer in force and effect, Your Honor.
Let's give her some leeway, counsel. Let's
She
give her
will
some
know
leeway.
later the question,
We will
Your
see
Honor.
where she
Yeah.
will lead to.
So, paragraph 4, Your Honor, please. Witness.
Whereas these intelligence and confidential activities by their very nature are highly sensitive and confidential operations or missions, the details of which cannot be divulged without posing a threat to national security or to the success of the mission.
Can you continue with paragraph 5, Silene?
Whereas, as now being required, the submission of receipts, bills, or commercial invoices in support of disbursement from this fund for rental of safe houses, purchase of meals or supplies, and other expenses might create a leak of information that may threaten the confidentiality of the intelligence operations, endanger the lives and safety of the agents and employees of the government agencies, and result to a failure of the mission.
So, paragraph 6, sorry, medyo magbabasa ka, no? Paragraph 6.
Whereas in many instances it is impractical and sometimes impossible to obtain such receipts, bills, or commercial invoices during intelligence operations.
Last na ho, no? Paragraph 7.
Whereas by its very nature, the use of intelligence and or confidential funds requires an approach allowing more flexibility in intelligence operations.
Okay. So, sinabi ho ng good counsel natin, no, na this is 1992 circular, no? Outdated na yan. Pero, agree ho kayo sa sinasabi niya na confidential operations are highly sensitive?
Opo.
Totoo pa naman ho yun hanggang ngayon, di ba po?
Opo, tama po.
Okay. At ayon sa circular, may mga detalye na hindi natin pwedeng i-disclose dahil dito nakasalalay yung success ng ating confidential operations.
Based po sa document na ito.
Okay, pero as of today, no, totoo pa naman ho yun, applicable ho yun. Sa tingin nyo ho?
Opo, sa intelligence.
Okay. And confidential activities also.
Your Honor, please, the answer was opo sa intelligence.
Hindi, I'm asking her about confidential, Your Honor, operations. Applicable din ho yan pagdating sa mga confidential operations.
Opo, pwede din
Okay,
po.
salamat. Now, based on those statements, no, na binasa ho ninyo, nire-recognize ho ng COA, based lang ho dyan sa statement na yan, no, na yung submission of receipts, bills, or commercial invoices in support of certain expenses might create a leak of information that may threaten the confidentiality of the intelligence operations. Based lang ho dito sa binasa niyo ho.
Based po dito sa circular na ito.
Okay. Okay. So, sa tingin niyo ho, yung mga konsepto na na-introduce po ng circular na ito ay applicable pa ho sa panahong ito?
Objection, Your Honor.
What is the objection?
Your Honor, please, this counsel is trying to elicit from this witness an opinion that indirectly runs counter to the express provision in the joint circular of 2015, Your Honor, that all of this, everything she has said, all the paragraphs that she has read precisely, Your Honor, if I can, I will state this later, Your Honor, but precisely, Your Honor, the joint circular if we are to read the rationale for the joint circular, was precisely in recognition of the fact that this circular and several other circulars of intelligence and confidential government agencies are inaccurate and inconsistent with each other. Thus, the rationale of Joint Circular 2015 was precisely to make it one whole joint circular of 5
Your Honor,
agencies on intelligence and confidential funds.
I
She is
understand the
now
point of
saying, Your
Attorney
Honor,
Kapunan. However, the question is quite simple for the witness. Although this may have indeed been impliedly repealed, again, impliedly repealed by the Joint Memorandum Circular, are the concepts stated herein still applicable today, and are you still using it? To abbreviate the proceedings, Ms. Eileen, yung kawalan ba ng resibo na sinasabing okay lang sa circular na to, okay pa rin ba hanggang ngayon sa Joint Memorandum Circular o hindi na?
Under po kasi sa Joint Memorandum Circular, under 6.2.3.7, we can request po other documents necessary for the proper evaluation po nung under 6.2.7 po.
I
Other
agree.
documents necessary in the audit po.
You can request for other documents, but the Joint Circular does not say that you should demand and ask for receipts.
Opo.
Wala dun yun.
Your Honor,
Yes, Attorney
just a
Christine.
quick manifestation, Your Honor.
You may proceed, Attorney Christine.
Your Honor, can the counsel for the, can the counsel for the prosecutors be reminded not to make an argument, not to argue for the witness, Your Honor, because she's citing circular, she's citing laws, which is not allowed during cross-examination, and that is indirectly teaching her witness how to answer my question. So, please, Your Honor, can the court direct the counsel not to make these arguments in court because these are not allowed under the rules of court, Your Honor. This is not a place where we are, this is not the time where we are supposed to expound or to state our oral arguments in this case. So, please, Your Honor.
This is part of the seeming generational divide tension that the court is trying to avoid. So let's leave it at that, counsel.
Yes, Your Honor. I was just going to say that I will accept.
Let's leave it
I
at that.
accept what she said, Your Honor.
Thank you,
I will
thank you.
refrain from lecturing her, Your Honor.
No,
Counsel, please.
that's all out of order, Your
Counsel,
Honor.
please. Kindly proceed, Attorney Christine.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Okay. Sige. I will go back to the podium.
So, in relation to the question that you were asked by the chair, no? Earlier you said that hindi naman required ng circular yung mga invoices and receipts, tama ho?
Ang requirement po is other documents deemed necessary sa audit.
Yes, but answer my question. Hindi required yung invoices and receipts. Sinabi mo yun kanina.
Opo, hindi
Okay,
po siya
thank you.
naka-enumerate doon.
In fact, yung item 4.12 ng JC, kung may copy ka ho dyan, pakitingin. Item 4.12, please. Okay. It says that disbursements from CF shall be supported with documentary evidence of payment, among others, which shall be submitted to the ICFAO in a sealed envelope signed by SDO. No? So sinasabi dito, documentary evidence of payment. Tama ho?
Opo, tama po.
Without specifying the kind of document that the agency should submit. Tama?
Opo, wala siyang in-specify. Ang nakalagay lang po, documents evidencing payment.
Okay. So, kung yung intention ho ng circular ay i-require ho yung invoices and receipts, no? Bakit sa tingin nyo hindi ho nakalagay ho sa circular yon?
Your Honor, please, we object to the question.
What's the base of the objection, counsel?
Argumentative, speculative.
Sustained.
Okay, sige po.
For being argumentative.
Yes, Your Honor. I will move on, no? Okay. Silene pala, sorry. Kasi Celine yun. Silene. Okay, Silene, no? The circular involves surveillance activities. Tama?
Confidential and intelligence
Oo.
activities.
Yes, surveillance activities. Familiar ho ba kayo sa mga surveillance activities?
Excuse me, Your Honor, asked and answered earlier.
Hindi ho, tinatanong ko, Your Honor, kung familiar ho sila kung anong klaseng mga surveillance kung ano ho ang mga surveillance
Witness may
activities.
answer. She evaluated those earlier and identified some of the things read by counsel as surveillance. So, she is competent to answer. Silene, please answer the question.
Pwede po ulit pakiulit yung tanong po.
Familiar po ba kayo sa mga surveillance operations? Mga klase, uri, I believe, ng surveillance operations.
May konti po akong alam sa surveillance activities po.
Okay.
Okay. Sige, I'll just move on to another point, Your Honor. So, okay. Natapos na tayo dun sa invoices and receipts, no? Kayo ho ay certified public accountant to, Miss Celine? Silene?
Opo.
Okay. So, familiar ho kayo sa tax code? National Internal Revenue Code?
Hindi po ako nag-practice ng sa bandang tax.
Pero
So,
pinag-aralan ho natin yan sa college, sa accountancy ho. Diba?
kasama po.
Your Honor, we object to this line of questioning already. First, she asks this witness earlier if this witness is familiar with criminal laws. Objection from prosecution sustained by the presiding officer. Now she's asking this witness, are you familiar with
Tax code, because
the
she's a
tax code,
CPA, Your Honor.
We will make the same objection, Your Honor, beyond the scope of direct.
We'll note the objection. We'll see where she takes this, counsel. We'll give her some leeway. She's on cross.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Your Honor. So, yung tax code doon, nasa curriculum mo natin yan nung college po, di ba po? Nung nagtitake up tayo ng accountancy.
Yes po, taxation and
Okay, salamat po. Now, familiar ho kayo sa Section 34 ho ng tax code? Sige.
Hindi ko na po
I-flash natin yan sa screen, please. Section 34.
Can counsel just proceed to the question, Your Honor?
That's it. That's it, Your Honor. That's Section 34. I-flash ho natin. No? Section 34B says, substantiation requirements. No deduction from gross income shall be allowed under subsection A hereof unless the taxpayer shall substantiate with sufficient evidence such as official receipts or other adequate records, the amount of the expense being deducted, and the direct connection or relation of the expense being deducted to the development, management, operation, and or conduct of trade, business, or profession of the taxpayer. Kikita
Your Honor,
niyo yan?
please.
Counsel?
We will object already to this line of questioning. It is totally immaterial, irrelevant, and beyond the scope of cross-examination.
There was no question yet, Your Honor.
Let's wait for the question, counsel. I think I know where counsel is leading to.
Thank you, Your
Attorney
Honor.
Christine,
Okay,
go to your question.
so Section 34B refers to the deductibility of expenses under the tax code. If you can recall that.
Apo.
Yes, okay.
Now we make our objection, Your Honor. Is that your question?
Wala pa.
I think she's
No,
laying
you
the
said-
basis for her
Wala pa ho.
question,
I'm
counsel.
laying the basis ho. Okay. So,
What is the question?
wait lang ho. In fact, Section 34B, yung binasa natin.
Patience is a virtue, counsel.
Yeah.
Let's give her
In
some.
fact, Section 34B.
Let her lay the predicate.
B of the NIRC considers other adequate records to support the deductibility of expenses, di ba? Tingnan nyo, kung titingnan nyo lang, base lang ho sa tax code.
Is that already the question?
No,
Your
asked
Honor?
and answered, counsel. Move to your point.
What is...
Yes. Yung ano ho yung sagot?
Paulit po yung tanong. Pwede
Okay,
pong
based ho
pakiulit.
dyan sa sinite ho natin na provision ng tax code, okay, Section 34B considers adequate records as sufficient support for the deductibility of expenses or business expenses under the tax code.
Base po dyan.
Base po dyan. Okay.
Document is the best evidence, Your Honor.
Yes, counsel. Let her proceed, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. It does not require an invoice. Nakalagay ho dyan, invoice. Dapat mag-submit ho tayo ng invoice.
Again, may I object now? Is that a question already, or
Yes,
should
that's a
I wait for
question,
your
Honor.
question?
That's a
Okay.
question.
That's
That's a
your
question,
question.
Your Honor. Nakalagay ho ba dyan na requirement na dapat may invoice? para maging deductible yung expense?
Nakalagay po such as
Your
official.
Honor, please.
Attorney Lorna, yes. What is your objection?
This is immaterial, irrelevant, beyond the scope. This is the National Internal Revenue Code for taxpayers. What is relevant here is the payment of taxes, what is allowed as deductions, what are documents allowed to substantiate findings here. It refers to gross income, Your Honor. What has gross income have to do with confidential funds of the Office of the Vice President and the DepEd, Your Honor?
Since it's 11:55, let the presiding officer go to the point. I think Attorney Christine is going towards. Attorney Silene, nasa tax code, para sa kung namang dahilan o purpose, ay pwede ka mag-present ng adequate records maliban sa resibo. Alam niyo yan bilang accountant?
Opo.
Sa trabaho niyo po ba ngayon sa COA, sa paghahanap, ayon sa pag-cite niyo ng provision kanina, ng iba pang dokumento bilang suporta sa paggastos ng confidential fund, tiningnan niyo ba maliban sa official receipt, adequate records na ginagamit din naman sa...
Good morning, I'm Pauline Berzosa, and here are the latest stories at this hour. It is day 15 of Vice President Sara Duterte's impeachment trial, and it resumed with 18 senator judges present at the Senate Impeachment Court. Our prosecution counsel, Attorney Lorna Capunan, asked the impeachment court earlier to allow COA Auditor Silene Del Campo to appear before the clerk of court to identify and authenticate the prosecution's documents and acknowledgement receipts. And Presiding Officer Cheese Escudero said there is no need for Del Campo to appear as the clerk of court will be comparing the acknowledgement receipts submitted by both parties, the prosecution and the defense. Then Attorney Christine Ferrer proceeded with her cross-examination of COA State Auditor Silene Del Campo. Attorney Ferrer and Attorney Capunan even exchanged heated remarks over the prosecution's objection to the presentation of several defense documents. And Presiding Officer Cheese Escudero said the issue could be addressed during redirect examination. Attorney Ferrer also outlined the OVP's alleged intelligence activities back in 2023, which are based on events attended by Vice President Sara Duterte. Presiding Officer Cheese Escudero then asked if an apprehension is required to prove successful information gathering or surveillance activities, and Del Campo said this is not explicitly stated in the joint circular. And now for more on the ongoing impeachment trial, mobile journalist Merimon Reyes is reporting live on the ground. Merimon, what's the latest there?
Pauline, part din ng unang mga tinanong na cross-examination ni Attorney Ferrer from the defense dito kay Auditor May Del Campo ay kung nagkaroon daw ba ng formal na endorsement from former State Auditor Roderick Wamil papunta dito kay Del Campo tungkol doon sa mga dokumento and yung compliance audit na ginagawa ng COA. Ang sinabi naman ni Del Campo doon sa custodian nila at yung sa chief division nila, pinasa ni Wamil itong mga dokumento. May logbook din daw sila para sa patuloy na pagko-compliance audit. And ang pinaka-naka-assign din kasi dito kay Del Campo is yung compliance audit ng mga government agency. So that will include itong OVP pati ang DepEd. Pero kanina rin, inaisa-isa rin ng defense yung ilan sa mga nilalaman ng Protective Intelligence Operations Report. Pat ito yung nakalagay doon sa certification ni Colonel Raymond La Chica from the VPSG na nagsasabing may mga activities sila na surveillance, intelligence fusion, profiling ng mga dadalo sa mga event ni VP Sara Duterte, deployment ng mga operatiba sa mga ruta ng biyahe. At iginiit ng defense na ang mga ito raw ba ay intelligence work daw ba or admin work lang ng OVP. At sinasabi naman dito ni Del Campo, sila ay parte ng confidential operations na tinatanggap. Pero ang nililinaw din ni Del Campo, magkaiba yung payment of information sa payment of reward. Yung information, wala raw problema, hindi raw ito disallow. Ang issue dito, payment of reward, na dapat sa base sa pagkaka-interpret daw ni Del Campo doon sa joint circular, dapat mayroong na-apprehend o may nahuli para nga magkaroon ng pagre-reward doon sa informant. Pauline.
All right, well, we will continue monitoring this impeachment trial, but for now, thank you very much for that update. That was mobile journalist Merimon Reyes. Join us again at 1 p.m. for the very latest stories. I'm Pauline Berzosa. Kapatid, we are One News.